Special Operations, Covert Ops, Espionage, The Team House, with your hosts, Jack Murphy, and David Park.
Jack Murphy and David Park. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 246 of The Team House. I'm Jack Murphy here with Dave Park, and our guest on tonight's show is William Yeske.
You got it.
All right. The book is
Damn the Valley.
Damn the Valley.
Damn the Valley.
We're really happy to have you in studio tonight. Thanks for coming in and doing this.
You thought I was remote for a little while there,
I did.
didn't you?
I thought this morning that you were going to be
And then,
remote.
shocker, he shows up out that side of the door. Wait, what?
Oh, we would always much rather have you in studio. But
it's way better to
I'm
be
glad
here.
I'm glad it worked out.
Same.
So Dave read this book. So you're gonna have to lead the questions here, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, the book's phenomenal, and right now it's rated.
Oh yeah, hey, quick shout out to Barbell Apparel.
Oh.
Dave's wearing the shirt. I'm wearing the pants.
Looking good. There you go. Stretchy.
Really nice stuff. They sent us a whole bunch of clothes. They're the sponsor for this show. We're really happy to work with them. So please go check out barbellapparel.com/teamhouse. See if there's something there you want to pick up. A lot of really nice clothes.
It's a full 1 minute ad.
Well, okay. I've only been wearing the clothes for one day. What do you want? No, I wore the jeans this week, and I really like them. What else do you want me to say, D?
Well, the stuff that I sent you over email.
Oh, so there's stuff that I actually have to pull up on here and
You have
read.
a
I can't
script. You have
just
a
say it
script.
that I really enjoy the clothes.
I mean, first off, I love Barbell. I've been wearing it for years. I'm so happy they're a sponsor. I'm taking over the read now because you're doing an abysmal job.
Hold on,
You want to
Dimitri.
get it from the guest?
Hold on.
The guest weighs in.
Yeah, the guest-
I've worn barbell before. I
Yeah.
actually, not even kidding. Like the squats and stuff. CrossFit gym, like right next to
Yeah,
it.
you
There
like the
go.
athletic gear?
I do. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, leisure.
I'm glad you're here because I haven't used it to work out yet. I've just worn their like casual wear.
Oh no, it's legit. So it's good stuff.
Here we go. All right. Hey guys, ever struggled?
You don't
with-
have to read it verbatim.
What the fuck do you want
Will,
from me, D?
Will,
You're new to sponsors.
I'm
aren't
so
you?
glad you mentioned about Barbell and how much you love it because they're having a Black Friday sale. And if you go to barbellapparel.com/teamhouse, you can get a great deal on chinos, jeans, t-shirts.
their hoodies are amazing. These clothes are really, really really good looking. No, they're very comfortable. The jeans, the pants, they're flexible. The clothes are fantastic. And D was keeping this to himself. He never told us about Barbell.
No, never.
But now
Until I got them as a sponsor.
now it's pretty much all I'm going to wear because honestly, the clothes
They
are
rule.
amazing.
Yeah,
And they're
now
cool
we're hooked
guys,
up.
a cool company. Check them out, barbellapparel.com/teamhouse. Black Friday sales. Thank you. We'll work on Jack's
We'll get it.
ad-
We'll get it right
ad
next
read.
time. Sorry.
It's a progression. It's all right.
So I just want to say that your book, Damn the Valley, it's the #1 new release in the Afghan war biographies category on Amazon. So congratulations on that.
In history, right? Is it still hanging there? It bounces off sometimes, but
It only gives us 1 rating, but
they don't want to be generous and say 2.
I can.
It's all right. It doesn't matter.
Who's
Honestly.
in? So we've had Scott Mann on too. He's number 2.
Oh, there's
you're
it's
number
hanging with-
1.
It's hanging with some good stuff.
Yeah.
It's like unbelievable the different stuff.
That's
out there
great, man.
Right now. Which I mean, hey, I'm glad the story's getting out. Honestly, it's been good. It's been a wild ride, man. The launch event, holy crap.
Yeah. were there drinks?
Later. Yeah, for sure. I mean, so the launch event. So this was at the Airborne and Special Operations Museum down in Fayetteville, and it kind of ties into the whole thing. So I mean, the book, the guys we lost over there from the battalion, there's actually a paver out front that's dedicated to them. So it was almost like you have the flag from the front cover, and that was the major part with this is that flag that's on the front cover. One of the guys contacted me, Brian Erickson, and he had that flag with him. He took it back with us, and that was sort of in formulating this whole thing. It was like, hey, yeah, man, him handing that thing over, he had tears in his eyes. You know, I mean, it really meant something to him and stuff. But it was, and that was some of that stuff was what really pushed me dial it down the way that I did. And I think that's probably the only reason why it's doing on how it's doing. It's putting yourself to the fire. I still think it needs more, but I mean, you're always going to think that.
Sure.
You're always going to think. But it was like coming home. I mean, that flag, bring that flag down there, and the other guys that donated, there was Lee's backpack down there, and that PMAG. Our old Sergeant Major's uniform top is down there, which was the UCP Deltas, which was only fielded really for one battalion. I know some other people got them here and there, but it wasn't
The ACUs that have the brown in it.
Yeah, I call them shit CUs. Yeah. But yeah, there was that down there. I've got assault packs and like different. There's a Mayflower rig that I had.
Oh yeah.
And I love that thing. So that wall on the back cover here.
I have one right up on that shelf over there.
That's actually what I was gonna say. I was like, I noticed I was like, oh, dude, that's a Mayflower rig, man.
Yeah.
Which I know it's Velocity Systems now.
Yeah.
They made awesome stuff. And here I am, as the RTO when we were at the Argandal portion, hucking over walls like they were nothing. Just due to how much more mobile I was than having to wear the TAPS rig that they had, or my old saw rig was an Eagle. And I ended up selling it off to one of the guys. I'm like, I'm never going back to that position again. That's horrible. So passed that off to one of the other guys, Zach Morton. But I always had that extra gear just because saw stuff is it just sags. You have so much weight, and I was carrying 800 on person, and
Holy shit.
another 400 in my assault pack. Oh no, I wasn't messing around. But yeah, that was. I always had something that was. But no, that's awesome. They have Mayflower rig over there.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. Good stuff.
So to answer your question,
Yeah.
yes, it is also number one in Afghan war military history.
Boom.
And
2 categories. Awesome.
And one of the great things, there are a lot of great things about the book, but one of the great things about the book is that, the conventional military story has not been told enough, I think, post GWAT. Like, we always hear from, SF and Rangers and CAG guys and SEALs and whatnot. But conventional forces were really out there hooking and jabbing on a daily basis without relief, generally without the assets, the air support, all the stuff that, sort of the, concierge services that Spec Ops had.
Yeah. We would literally, the same, we were building target packages. We were doing FID mission out there. We were living with the Afghan police, like right outside the village, just constantly that by, with, and through. But really, a lot of it was just us. Although we had a good, the police commander that was with us he was good. He was really good. He was like one of the ones where like, hey, you need to do something, like just let me know when and where. I got this. Or he'd be like, hey, we got a guy over here, pretty sure he's Taliban. Like, we just need a QRF at this time. And we worked really well. Like, he was all about it, but he kind of had a little bit of a axe to grind on his own. Like, he was a Afghan commando that went through their whole pipeline and was tired of seeing the corruption within the Afghan police force. So he resigned his commission over there and went over to the ANP, which at one point he had handpicked guys so we could actually trust them. They were good dudes and would go out on patrol with us. But over time, as things got more and more deadly over there, the guys started, hey, my mother's sick.
Yeah, right.
That whole game
Right.
they do.
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta, like, even our terp, one of the saddest stories is that our interpreter, awesome guy, we had him from Hellman, that he pushed forward, and all those guys, they have their names that they're given over there. And I don't know what it is with Italian fashion designers. And we had Gucci, Armani.
Yeah.
It was someone else, but Gucci was the guy, man. And he had already the Mexican standoff. He was the one who kind of diffused that situation. That was nuts. But so there was one with a suicide bomber where this guy lit himself off, and the AMP was wounded that had been there with us. And Gucci straight up snatched this dude's AK up and was like pushing villagers back. Hey, get back inside and stuff. And we're like, yo, man, like, hey, dude, like, stay within sight of us because there's probably QRF coming and they're looking to kill someone who's brown. They're looking to kill someone who looks just like you, who's
Holding
waving an AK out
Yeah.
there. Like, we got this now, but
Yeah.
like, awesome. Like, he was legit. He was a good dude. He had worked with SF a bit and everything. We could tell that, you know, we could trust him with the gun and stuff around you, but that's not normal. But yeah, no, what you're saying, I mean, conventional forces, a lot of times they get marginalized. And they feel marginalized to bring the story forward. The market is full of soft books these days.
Yeah.
So.
And so this is your story. It's the unit story. And then you also, you know, you have other people's like individual stories kind of broken out in here too.
Yeah, there's no way I could have done this whole thing from me. I mean, there's situations to where, like with Ross, when he got blown over the wall, you know, he was the only one out there for 5 or so minutes, you know, as we were getting people out to him.
So since it is in a chronological order and we generally sort of use that format, let's sort of start with you, your origin story. How'd you grow up and how did that lead you to the military?
Small town Connecticut, not far from here. Actually, Thomaston. Little tiny place. Matter of fact, it's 15 minutes from Torrington where Jocko grew up. It's crazy, right? But yeah, just a little small town, Thomaston, Connecticut. Their big things was, it used to be Plymouth Hollow, like way back, 1800s. And then they renamed it for this clockmaker who's like Henry Ford of clocks. So he just, the manufacturing process, there's right in the middle of town, big clock tower on the factory. It's kind of central to the whole New England manufacturing town. But my dad had a business there with springs and stampings. So tool and die, spring stampings and everything. It was him and 2 other partners. And one of them was actually in the reserves, but had been in Vietnam. And I want to say it was something having to do with armor. Because there was a story with him on a tank at one point with them coming back in, and he had switched spots. And the guy that he switched spots with, they were coming back. Things are over, right? They got the word, hey, this is done. Sniper freaking capped him. And it was like, holy crap, that could have been me. So I mean, it really got to the guy. But yeah, so I mean, that's kind of where I grew up. Like small, 8,000 people in this town. And when I was a kid, I know we're going to go into the military thing really quick. I might as well just segment to there.
No, go talk. This is your time.
But no, he invited us out to these war games. I've never seen him do this. Like I've never seen him do it to this extent. But this is where, at least I thought, you know, public was allowed. They're throwing sim grenades, and they got this little M60 pit for kids to come up and shoot. And of course, you know what? 7 or 8-year-old, I almost burnt the barrel off that M60. Just, like sitting over there. Hey kid, like, come off the line. And we could actually pick up the brass and links. It was probably just the guys like, yeah, man, let the kids do it.
Yeah, right.
Kick out of it. We don't have to pick it up. But my cousin got in trouble. I remember this specifically. My cousin got in trouble because we made him a big bandolier belt. And he went into school. They were staying with us at the time. And he went into school, and the teachers, like, this was when they first started getting weird about that type of stuff. I mean, way back.
Yeah, we're probably roughly the same age. Like Columbine happened while we were in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm 41, so.
I'm 40.
Okay, so we're right there. Dang, man. But yeah, so bandolier got tossed out of class, and we got the whole. I'm like, they're not even. There's like, what are you thinking, guys? Like, come on, it's empty.
Just a bandolier of blanks.
Empty round. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, they're not even really blanks. You know?
Yeah,
I mean,
they're shells,
suspended shell casings.
Yeah. Yeah. So did that kind of pique your interest in the military, or?
I don't know if it was either. Maybe that kind of got it on the radar. Because, I mean, I always, like we were talking before, I was always fascinated with war books, specifically Vietnam stuff. You know, some World War II, but really the Vietnam stuff. Yeah. And it was weird because, you know, but when we got into the Argonaut Valley is just a weird, and we can get into that later, but the terrain there and stuff, there was some section where you're coming through canals and like the grass and stuff is coming over you, and I'm getting this like, man, this is like what it must have felt like in Vietnam. Like, this is weird, like crazy. So even my platoon sergeant, same stuff. You know, come through the pomegranate orchards, the grape fields and everything, and you're just mucking through things. Or having there was a portion of 3 months to where there's no showers, no anything. Like, we didn't have, Seabees came out and saw how we were living, and they're like, oh my God, like, people, what are you guys doing, man? Like, when's the last time you had a shower? I don't know, 3 months ago. We route the patrols through the freaking canal so we can, you know, get some of the funk off. But it would go from you get those smells, and then they go away, then they start coming back, and you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
It's got to be real bad at this point.
Yeah. Some of those smells, like, once they get in you, too, like, it's that fungus. The fungus among us.
Well, but after a while, you don't smell it.
Yeah, you don't. Everybody else
Yeah,
does.
exactly. Yeah. But then when it comes back, like,
Yeah.
that's when you're red flagging it. No, my cousin joined the Marines, and then I was going to join the Marines right out of high school. I took the ASVAB and whatnot, and they're like, we want you as it was a satellite, like a ground satellite technician. And I'm like, a ground satellite technician? But now going back, I'm like, oh, you wanted me as an RTO with a sat can out there.
Right.
We need help.
Right.
But, I was talked out of it. I was talked out of going. Parents were like, hey, you know what? Look, we support you wanting to do that, but really, we'd like for you to go to college. We'll support you on that side. And then if you want to go out as an officer, like, our full blessing. So, yeah, that sounds pretty good. All right, let's do it. Why not? Let's go do the college thing. And 3 years later, I think they had enough of the Wild Bill. And they were like, yeah, this ain't panning out, man. I think we're done paying for the college. And I'm like, well, my grades are good. They're like, yeah, but they wouldn't let me stay at the dormitories. I just kept getting in trouble. So, yeah, you got to stay off post. Well,
That's when you know you need to go in the military.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I
If you want
needed.
to party at that level, like, you've got to.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to go with the
Military's
pros.
the only place
Go
for
with
you.
the pros. I honestly, I should have listened to the heart. I should have went in when I was 18. That would have been the best thing for me at the time, was that discipline, quite honestly. Man, did I get it. That's for sure.
So when you did decide to go, you had kind of thought about the Marines prior to that. Was there a reason you settled on the Army?
Yeah, I wanted to go to Special Forces. That was 18 X-ray pipeline. I was like, hey, Afghanistan's winding down. They're still doing stuff over there, but come on, it's 2008 at this point. Like, who's still in the fight? And I was like, Green Berets, you got language training, you got all these different schools and stuff. They're in different segments all over the world where there's a conflict or not, like, supporting that end. Like, heck yeah, like, I'd rather go that route. Marines, you can't choose your job, got the shot at it. No problem, I got this. Yeah, so as we were talking before, started up, left in March. And crazy enough, the fun part was I had this neighbor, Cal, and he would, I told him, hey, I walked his dog at one point. That's how we got introduced. One of my friends was his pharmacist or something, and he was like, hey, can you check on this guy? He lost his wife recently. And I was talking with him, hey, thinking about joining the Army. You're going to hate it. All right. Well, I did the Army once in Vietnam. Like, you're going to freaking hate it. All right, Cal. This is just the stick,
Yeah.
So finally it comes down, and I get it. And I almost asked like this, like, hey, guess what, Cal? I signed on the dotted line. And he's like, well, that's great. You're going to love it. And I'm like, what? Like, let me tell you something. And he pulls me in, and he opens up this bottom drawer, and he was old Mac V saw.
Oh, shit.
And I'm like, dude, what? Like, you got to be kidding me. And he's like, oh, yeah. And he's showing me stuff, we were on Fort Bragg, and our freaking stuff was the green top with dungarees on the bottom and stuff. And, like, just certain things and everything. And when I started going back, it was like I was a ranger. Hey, there's no rangers on Bragg. And then there was rangers on Bragg at one point, like, when they weren't actual regiment and stuff. Hold on. Like, so this was early war when it was in there. But it's just crazy. And here it was, and I was like, why did you, try to talk me out of this whole time? He's like, I just want to see if you're going to stick with it. He's like, you're great. Man, Cal, come on, dude. But, yeah, so I was signed up, and, it was a delayed entry program. Did basic training. That was the whole basic training. It was, I was a little older at the point anyway, 26. Seeing the terrified
Old man at that point.
for basic, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, these kids! Like, I'm just laughing at myself as their shark attacks happening. It's like, man, terrified. And like, dude, this is okay. All right, this is nothing, guys. But started to realize who would push it. Who were the ones who were carrying their weight. Who was who was the turds, who to stay away from. So I mean, you get that end of things in there, and I mean, it was really, they had a mission to freaking drop us out there. We started 80 some on, and I think it was like 46 of us from basic training. Like they just kept,
From the AIT part, from the whole thing, or just from basic?
yeah, AIT. That was our, the day one of AIT. The guy picks up the trash can by the door, throws it out there in the middle of the freaking, I was on guard actually that time, and he's like, I hear him come in, and he's like, here we go. Bam, just throws it up in the air right into the middle of the, boom, just loud metal trash can. Welcome to AIT. Get up. And it was, all right, it's not going to be any different. And it wasn't.
Yeah. I mean, that's the interesting thing about that, like one station unit training that the Army runs, is that basically it's just a really long boot camp. I feel like in other services, when you take that break and go from your boot camp or your basic training to your career school, whatever it is, you might be treated like a plebe, but you're still like, okay, you're not in boot camp anymore. But in the one station you're training, like you're a boot the whole time.
Yep. Good times out
Yeah.
of Fort Benning.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and you were right across the street there, right? At one point.
At Benning? Well, I was,
Did you go through RIP and
I did the whole
RASP,
thing, and then I got
yeah.
assigned to 375, so I was there forever.
Ooh.
Yeah. For
Ugh.
real. That was not ideal.
No.
I did.
Cockroaches,
I had to go to
hot
selection
water.
just to get off of get off of Benning. Yeah.
Yep. Fun times.
So now, had you enlisted as an 18 X-ray at that point?
Yes. Yeah, and so funny story. I can read contracts because I was like, hey, wait, what is this right here? I'm like, well, if you don't make the course, you don't get the $46,000. I'm like, no. That's the only way you're getting me is that. They're like, well, no, that's non-negotiable. That's how that goes. And I'm like, no, I'm getting the 46,000 no matter what. Like, or I'm walking. And like, so we're at MEPS. And that literally ended up being like I had to hold over to the next day because they were, oh, we got to do something here. Like, I don't know what they did. I still ended up getting it. And everybody I know that went into the program, they're like, how did you get the freaking bonus? Like, smart. Lawyering.
Very smart.
Right?
So you go to your basic, your AIT, and then airborne. And how was airborne for you?
School falling. I mean, hey, man, like, just all you got to do is keep up.
Yeah.
Like, that's just don't fall over run and go through that. It was a good school. I mean, in the way of, you teach anybody that your feet knees together. Hey, kid, if you ever got to jump out of the window because the house is on fire, feet knees together.
Yeah.
What do you mean, Dad? Don't worry about it. Just keep your feet and knees together. But yeah, I mean, that was no big deal, and it was just added to the, the next step was SOPSI. Ended up over at Bragg, and SOPSI was a great course. Honestly, the 82nd always looks down on those SOPSI guys coming over. I got the whole, what do you think you're better than us and everything. And I'm like, no. Like, I got removed from, I was supposed to leave for selection, and I had gotten hurt during one of the land nav portions during SOPSI. Mm-hmm. So, and I can show you on my leg, man. My leg comes down, and it's like, my calf comes down, and it's like, something tore out of my leg at one point. Crutches and everything. And I showed up to the deuce, but I was like, I can't walk in there on crutches. Like, there's no way. So I came in. Of course, the next day we're doing, running up our dens. I didn't, it wasn't a crazy pace. It was only 8 minutes, but I'm like, oh, this was a bad choice. Not to let them know I was on profile.
Yeah.
But at that point,
Yeah.
You don't want to be that weak guy.
I got to do another ad read copy.
You get to do another ad.
D, I need the actual attachment though. It's not in the email. That's what I'm telling you. We're all fucked up on these ads today. Because I just want to make sure I'm reading the new one, not the old one.
It's a weird day. It's supposed to be remote.
Yeah. So where were we?
SOPSI, and we have the cadre of SOPSI, one of the Black Hawk Down guys. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think. Actually, I never cleared his name, so I'm not gonna go ahead and say that. But man, the intensity, just like, I mean, the people they had out there, him in particular though, like that was kind of the same thing. Like in basic training, we had a guy from regiment at one point, and that's where that smoke session, the naked smoke session, came about. Oh yeah, you got to read it, Jack.
Yeah, naked jumping jacks.
Yeah, naked, all of it, burpees and all the.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he always just kind of drove it home more, and same thing with Hulse.
For people who might not be aware, because I don't. Can you tell us like what the SOPC acronym stands for and its purpose?
Yeah, Special Operations Preparation and Conditioning, and it's really just like, I mean, if you go to, I guess it's someone who's really, really, really green going in, because I mean they do the exact same thing when you're over at selection. They're teaching it all over again. I guess it's just a little bit more extended, and to kind of give you, again, a little more conditioning. You know, I mean, it's just a month-long suck fest. Or I think in my case it was a month and a half. I mean, they just beat the crap out of you a little bit more. Some people get hurt, a lot of people just drop. You know, it's a weeding out process. But really, I mean, a good course. I love the port. Everybody always says they hate land nav, and those were my favorite times. I'm like, dude, you're walking through the woods, nobody's in your ear, like yelling at you. That's a freaking cakewalk at that point. Just don't leave your rifle.
Yeah,
hit your points.
Yeah. And make sure there are no bees. At the,
I think I'm ready. So the other sponsor for tonight's show is HelloFresh. HelloFresh, with them you get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. So everyone out there wants to cut back on errands and spending time in the checkout lines this time of year, so skip that extra grocery store trip and instead get fresh ingredients and delicious recipes delivered with HelloFresh. Just pick your meals and decide on a delivery date and sit back. The most wonderful time of the year, and it's also the most delicious. Enjoy every bite of the holiday season with HelloFresh. Choose from over 45 weekly recipes and over 100 curated picks from the HelloFresh market. So, Dave and I have both used it. We really love the service. They, long story short, they send you all the ingredients you need and the recipe. So it kind of teaches you how to cook as well. So you get the box and, you're ready to go. And as I said, you get to skip all that stuff at the grocery store and trying to figure out what you're going to make for dinner, which, being a dude, I never know what I'm doing. So go to HelloFresh.com/teamhousefree and use the code teamhousefree for a free breakfast for life. One breakfast item per box while the subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life at HelloFresh.com/teamhousefree with the code teamhousefree. So please go and check them out. HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit. So please go and check out our sponsor. Appreciate it, guys.
You guys are tapping into some good products. I've used HelloFresh too before.
Cool.
it's great, isn't it?
They're freaking awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, the convenience end of things, and you have like the different meals, and you can choose from stuff. It's killer.
I also like that, it basically teaches you how to cook stuff that you never would have even thought of.
Yeah. You're just like the different, I had kind of the same thing. Like, so when I was in school, I did a little bit of, I guess it was part of the undergraduate, but like you were attached to a business and there was a chef there. I was doing the marketing end for some celebrity chef, but he would come up with this stuff for like lunches for us. And I'm like, dude, like you're coming up with like ridiculous stuff, like 5 ingredients or 6 ingredients. Like how? And he's like, dude, it's all about the combo, man. It's like and they do that.
Yeah.
For HelloFresh, they put this stuff together and it's freaking delish.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
You should have me on just for your ads, man.
I know.
You should, dude.
D, we should hire him for ad reads.
Right?
Better at it than I am.
That's for sure.
So, were you at all, so you go from SOPC, you have your heart set on being Special Forces. You go to SOPC, you get injured, and anybody who's been any kind of selection will tell you there is definitely a luck factor. There's definitely a luck factor that you get through it with no injuries, especially at the ripe old age of 26.
Yeah, 26.
Yeah. So we're, and then you're, going over to the 80 Deuce, going down the road. Were you at all, did you feel defeated at all?
Oh,
or
I
were
had
you
the boo-boo lip. Come
Yeah.
on, I had the boo-boo lip. But I mean, I had that whole I was pissed because of why and how. I mean, they literally just mass cut everybody off at the knees from med hold. And I was like, I just got here. Like, are you kidding me? Like, and there's like, well, there's malingerers. I mean, they weren't wrong. It was like, I think it's like 400 people got malingered. I'm like, how in the heck did you have this many people sitting in, like, how did this even happen?
Right.
Like, just unbelievable. I couldn't believe just the amount. So I got it. And then if you go to appeal it, of course, and I was just like, man, I'm just going to let the chips fall. I'll go do a deployment over there and I'll come back. And I knew where I was going. I mean, they were like, hey, you're headed over 4th Brigade. And I was like, all right. Just like the whipping boy of division. I mean, they were 4th Brigade. It was just back to back to back. And I got there. It was the same day as their Christmas ball. And because they shifted us around, and it's like you end up at brigade, and then you end up at battalion, and then finally you end up at your company, and you've been sitting there. I think I went in late because I knew better, and I went in at 1, and I joined everybody else around 3, and we're sitting there, and we didn't get to see the first sergeant at Bravo Company until, holy crap, 9 o'clock at night. This dude rolls up, and I'm like, yeah, how nice. But I mean, he was straight up in his class A's and stuff. You could smell whiskey on his breath. And I'm like, man, you just came back from the ball. Like, you got to be kidding. Like, you don't want to be here. I don't want. Couldn't we just have done this in the morning? It's just that conventional, like that set of it where this happens every time.
Yeah.
It's like, this makes no. The common sense just went, out the window.
It's good training, though, for when you have to wait on the word.
It is. It's like, and all that stuff. And that's the thing is, like, you don't see the value of it until later on. And you're like, oh, I mean, that patience and that end of things. And like when you're fully kitted up or like they scratch the bird for the 8th jump in a row. And you're like, oh my God. So you're just being conditioned.
Yeah. So when you got to the 82nd, was there a deployment on the horizon for them?
I think they knew they were going to Iraq because they were going into ITC, so intensive training cycle. And then not even a month after that, there's just like, all right, refit, JRTC. And then it was, all right, 2 months, we're heading out to Iraq. And then there was switch of orders. So President Obama, they had the surge into Kandahar. And President Obama did executive orders reassigning us essentially from Iraq. To do an advise and assist mission in Afghanistan. We were just like next people deploying, so they're like, all right, that sounds great. 82nd Airborne, advise and assist. This is awesome. Like, you just took a bunch of infantry bubbas and said, you're doing a training mission with Afghans. It's going to be interesting. I mean, it was. Helmand Province was like your standard. Like, when we got over there was nothing for us to do. They didn't know where to put us. Like, I mean, we went into... we flew in Kandahar, right? And they just like, all right. So then we found ourselves up and down the highway in Helmand, operating on a lash. And
this was the big 2008 General McChrystal surge, right? That we're talking about right around that time frame.
Yes, yeah. So McChrystal was the ISAF commander at the time, and then that was so our lieutenant colonel, battalion commander, had been his aide at one point. So we were out there trying to get a mission. And it was the Brits didn't want us to be involved in Marja.
Right.
The Marines didn't want us involved in Marja. So he's like, hey, I got a bunch of paratroopers. I'm trying to get them into a fight. They're doing nothing going up and down the highway. He's like, oh, I got something for you. We're going to be moving into Kandahar. Like, yeah, sounds good. What do you got? And we replaced, was it 5-2? It was 5th ID strikers.
Okay.
That were already in the Arghandab. And I could tell just doing the left seat, right seat. I mean, when we refitted in Walton and stuff, and they're like, well, it's going to be light everywhere, and we're establishing the outpost out there. I'm like, oh, okay. And just doing the left seat, right seat, and seeing how the other guys were spooked and stuff during this stuff, you're like, all right, something's up. We're going into it. And then ultimately, like the first few weeks when we were down there, we had found one and we did a controlled dead on one, but I remember looking at, there was a cow out there. I mean, livestock's just everywhere, but there's a cow out there and they blow this thing up and this cow didn't even flinch. And I'm like, okay, this is normal.
Yeah.
This is not good. This is not like those little observations and
Yeah.
picking up on that. I'm like, this is not a good thing.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I mean, they pulled back. They knew they couldn't take us in any sort of direct action type thing. And they were just like, all right, that's fine. We got time. We'll just wait for the next ones to show up. And they just pulled back and set in, a lot of anti-personnel mines.
Yeah.
First one that we had that hit us down there was day after Christmas, December 26th. And that was Specialist Jason Johnston. And that was I had just stepped over the initiator for that, maybe 30 seconds prior. And they were flowing in, and there was guys. Our standard thing was to put them up on the rooftop to get overwatch. So we were putting a gun team up there. And that was Will Ross and Jason Johnson were the first two that were traversing this wall. And EOD had been through with a minesweeper first, cleared it, and we're walking the footpath into this thing. And I can bring it up, but it's your standard courtyard, and there's some rooms back here. And I had come in and then stayed on the concrete, came across this way, and was on the far end over here. And the guys are all coming in, the squad. And Sergeant Thomas was near the rear with the doc. And it was maybe mid-patrol when Private Towery hit the initiator. And it was like, crack, pow! And this thing...
Was it a pressure plate?
Yeah, so it was the hockey pucks.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there was already a high iron content in the soil out there. We had,
So the detectors couldn't pick it up?
They had to constantly calibrate the detectors for the iron and stuff and the soil content. There was we had radio issues to where you couldn't reach
Really?
it. Like, oh my God, bad, real bad.
Because of mineral deposits.
That and all of the different walls. Like,
Okay.
I mean,
Okay,
orchards, and you have walls like just on every single bit. So I mean, your wavelengths and stuff are all getting broken up.
Mm-hmm.
So we were using. They had just gotten in the 117 Golf, which was using digital, and even that was having issues. But I mean, it was a little better when you put up the nodes and stuff. But it was. I mean, you had to throw the long whip up. Like most of the time, I'd already have it up 2 or 3 and just bundle in the top so that I could just flip it open. At a moment's notice and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I came in and I'm calling it up. I've got the long whip up and watching them come across and kaboom. And it was just, I got on there and they swore it was a false call. They were like, they didn't believe me at first. And I'm like, hey guys, like we just hit an ID, our location, my last frontline trace, because I had sent it up right before we went in there. And I'm like, I know we have at least one urgent surgical. I can hear him screaming on the other end. Like, I'll get back to you. And from there, handed off the radio pack to the LT and just went into care on Towery, his leg was separated below the knee right to begin with. But, I mean, he was missing some fingers. That was a whole break the ice thing with him once. Because, I mean, Doc was on it. Doc got shrapnel to the face. He was behind Thomas. Thomas had flattened him. He's went big 250-pound bear of a guy went flying backwards and like just pummeled Ponce, which was our doc. Just flattened him back against the wall. And Ponce is like, he's dazed, shrapnel to the face. He just got squished by his squad leader. And they're like, get up here. We need a medic on this. And he's, tourniqueting Towery and stuff. And he can half see. So I come up to assist. By then he already had a lot of it done. So it was just like, hey, like you can hear Ross screaming from the other side of the wall. Like, hey, we need someone else out here. And Ponce was, he's like, hey, continue care with him, make sure his tourniquets are good and stuff. I'm going out. And Thomas kind of grabbed him and was like, no, like we need to clear it.
Yeah.
Like there might be another secondary, fair enough. So he kind of turns around and like me and him are working on Towery during this time. And he's like, finally like, hey, I'm going out there. And Thomas is like, just go in his footsteps. Goes out. So I'm with Towery now. Kind of just checking to see blood sweep. Is there anywhere else he's bleeding out of? His hand's messed up. I'm talking with him. And he's kind of giddy at this point. He's going into shock, but made a finger joke because I'm missing one myself. There was a few of them. I'm like, welcome to the club, man. He just starts laughing. But you hear Ponce from the other side of the wall. I need someone else out here. I'm like, oh my God, man. Like, and this squad has just been rocked.
Yeah.
Like, guys, they're trying to put up security. This squad leader took a big brunt of it. He's freaking out. And I go to Thomas. I'm like, dude, like, his team leader come over and took control of, his team leader was John Culp, took control of Tower as a casualty. And I'm like, I'm going out there. And same thing, Thomas, like, right up in my face, like, fuck, no, you're not.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I'm going out there, man. Like, freaking, you know, and he was like, you get blown up. It's on you, man. I'm like, I don't get. Ponce went out, I'm fine. Like, and just went out. What I came up to, man, that was rough. Like, so Johnston was directly over the charge when this thing went off. And quite honestly, if he hadn't have been, that was really meant to be a squad killer.
Yeah.
You know, if he hadn't have been on top of it, it probably would have taken more people out, like, from that level.
How long had you guys been in the Kandahar area at this point in time?
So we got brought in. I need the exact date. It's in these books, man. But I want to say mid-December because we'd only been there 2-3 weeks when this had happened. We had refitted at Walton for a little bit. That's when I moved out from a machine gunner position into RTO, which I had been gunning for the whole time anyway. Like, well, I wanted to be an 18 Echo. So I was like, hey, man, this is like the perfect freaking on-the-job training. And the guy that was RTO at the time, Hammer, he hated that job with a passion.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm out here shooting radio waves instead of bullets. Like, this is stupid. You know? But yeah, no, I wanted to. I was like, I saw the value in it, and I liked, you know, being in on the different briefs. Something they're like, dude, you got to be on like everything. I'm like, I don't care, man. Like, I'd rather be out there than sitting back at the fob or freaking in the rear. Like, forget that.
Yeah. So what was, you know, you're out on this patrol. What was your mission in Kandahar? What did they tell you guys they wanted you to do?
That was, I mean, stop enemy movement through, you know, and it's like be that stopper.
Okay.
You know, I mean, a lot of this stuff is coming to Joe level.
Right.
Like this was, I'm sure there was other mission sets in there. I know, like, in going through and pulling it apart and stuff. Hey, why didn't we have these assets? Why didn't we have, you know? And it was like, honestly, some of these guys didn't even know it. Like I was talking before on how we were cut off in a way from brigade pushing down resources and stuff because of our relationship with brigade and battalion. There was issues. So, I mean, maybe we didn't get fielded everything we needed. I know that Colonel Jones did end up pushing down. I mean, we got dog teams. We got more EOD and stuff, so we weren't waiting around. We had a few EOD teams. I think there was like 3. I mean, they pushed the stuff, but it just wasn't. You have to look. Jaeda was new. Just where we were in that time, the type of fight that was, it was not something we were used to. Definitely not something used to as a conventional force, that's for sure. But I mean, even task force was having the same kind of issues. They were very active in that area. Like we had them for a bunch of stuff too. It was kind of cool to get the manuscript back and see all the black lines, and you're like, oh, okay, that's who was there. Okay, yeah. Oh, all right, that's who was there. And then even some of this stuff was like, guys, like this is in Wikipedia. They know that capability exists.
Yeah.
It's like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And they're just like, well, it's our job.
Yeah.
It doesn't change the story though.
So when you guys would generally go out, was it sort of presence patrols, recon by fire? Did they have specific like villages or people they wanted you to shake down? Like, was there a general flavor to the operations?
Lots of the presence patrols. I mean, but you have to look at what we were coming into. Everybody hated us out there because of who was there prior. I mean, we didn't get this on before, but before we came on, I was talking to him about our left seat, right seat. You know, we literally saw them call in fire on these 2 guys digging in the riverbed. You know, and Kaya was just coming and like, what was that, man? Like, what? This is the stuff that was happening. You know, they didn't care. They had search and destroy painted on the side of their strikers. They were going in with, I think it was counter guerrilla tactics when it was supposed to be a coin fight. So really, they didn't know what to think of us, you know, when we got there. Rightfully so. You know, they're like, who are these guys? We know they're different. but like, okay, they're just going to same thing. They're going to start ripping us out in the middle of the night or freaking not caring who gets in the way. And that wasn't the case. It took a while to show them that, you know, and once some of that kind of turned to where they did realize that we were there to help. And they're really, quite honestly, like I know one of the villages, in particular, Mianjoy, we always laugh about that one, you know, oh, Manjoy, okay, you know, Thursdays. But Mianjoy, they were getting pulled out of their beds at night, you know, and beat up, and freaking, or something hacked off and whatnot, you know. So it was like just getting that night's sleep without having to worry about that because they knew we were out there patrolling. So we'd either run R&S patrols out of you know, one of the empty compounds or something out of the village. There was one night it really started to change, like when they were like, "Hey, come and stay in the mosque." Like, whoa, what? Like, no, that's okay. Like, but like they were just like, "Hey, we want you to be safe, and we know you're going to be out running the patrols. Just they're not going to fire into the mosque. So stay out of the mosque." And like, that's okay. Quite honestly, we'd rather get in a gunfight. You know, that's
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and that, like after that stuff started happening, I mean, that's when you started having tripwires and stuff go off that were, you know, when villages started also becoming hit by these things. That's when you knew, you know, we were having a positive effect on them, but then it was starting to turn towards them. Some of that, hey, okay, you are friendly towards the Americans. So, and a lot of this was, all that was, the epicenter was Diakashe. So that was where all this stuff really started. It was all flowing out of there. That's where things were, you know, we were finding caches out there, putting stuff down wells. That's where that suicide bomber showed up at that T intersection. I mean, the cover picture, when they decided, hey, like this is the epicenter, this is where everything's coming from, CO was like, we need to establish a compound down there. So we had started out in the beginning at Cop Ware, along with 3rd Platoon, and they left 2nd Platoon back at Johnston as like a QRF and to close off that back channel, because there was a high-speed avenue. There was a highway, bazaars and stuff. It was really populated down there. It was right by Gondigan. And we can get into that in a minute. But they split it out. So then we ended up switching with 2nd down to Johnston. 2nd kind of, it was to give us a break. The work parties at Cop Ware were ridiculous. Establishing that cop is insane. They brought in HESCOs, and like there was no contractors to fill it though. So they're like, "Well, fill it by hand." I'm like, "First, are you freaking kidding me?"
With your K-pots?
Yeah.
Oh, they had 7 dudes, 24 hours on shovels, like that would rotate through to fill a HESCO. They filled like one in 3 days. Like, I'm like. And that's when I went on mid tour. I was like, thank God I'm going on freaking mid tour. Like, I'm out of this sucker.
How long was the tour designated for?
So it was September to September.
So it was a 12-month tour.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then can you walk us through what you mean by cop, what it means to establish a cop, and what in the world is a HESCO, and why do they suck so bad to fill?
I want to fill, yeah. I mean, they're great. I mean,
Yeah.
holy crap.
Yeah.
As far as, you know, that's a lot better than sandbags,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You know, you just all of a sudden, boom, whoa, how'd that get there? The next day, there's, all right, so what's the progression here? We've got HESCOs, cops, and
Yeah, so they would look at an
Establishing it.
area that was, you know, unruly, as it were,
rowdy.
and say we need a presence there. And Halliburton's not going to do it.
KBR.
Yeah, KBR is not going to do
Cheney
it.
Chow Hall right there. Boom.
So go build us a little city,
Yeah.
or go build us a thing.
Bob
yeah.
Cop established. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, that was, man, mid-December, freezing our butts off. Got the word, hey, we're going into the Argandab, and the commanders, you know, this is the spot, a radish field, in the middle of freaking the valley. That's where we're going to go.
Yeah.
But expected heavy resistance, and, you know, hey, we're not going in with any snivel gear. You know, this is the packing list. You got stuff ripped out of your packing list. I'm like, come on, man. Like, really? Like, but what if? And sure enough, what if happened?
Right.
So I remember, oh man, like cuddling up, burning cow manure to stay warm. It was freezing. So cold. And it was something like 3 to 5 days to where it was just, no resupply. You're sitting out there out of this compound in the middle of nowhere trying to provide security. All right, when's our stuff getting here? And then all of a sudden all this stuff comes in. And I honestly, like, for that stuff, I don't even remember if it was sling loaded or a convoy actually made it out there. But yeah, all this stuff all comes in either flatbed or flown in. I can't remember on that part. But putting these up, you could see pictures. This huge HESCO all around it. So a HESCO, you have a wire frame with like a burlap on the inside, and you just fill it with the earth around you. And it's, what's the dimensions on those? What's the square?
I feel like it's like 5 by 5.
I feel like it's like that. I think it's something like that.
I almost want to say it's even a little bit, but I mean, you have a good footprint. You can lay across those bad boys or stand up there. I mean, that's one of
they're basically, for people who have not seen a HESCO before, it's basically a collapsible wall. It's
awesome.
like a heavy cloth surrounded by almost like a fence in a way, and you unfold it, and then you fill it with dirt. So you basically create
the cage around
earthworks.
it. Gives the structure, where it can fill that up with that amount of poundage, and that burlap can hold it with that thing around it. Which, I mean, like, if you go to the social media, this is Damn the Valley book, you can see there's pictures in there to where you can see those HESCOs ain't filled. You can see the shadows in them and stuff. And you're like, and at one point somebody shot a Gustav off at us. So, I mean, you got a Carl G round or recoilless.
Someone shot one at you?
Yeah.
Where'd they get a goose from?
It wasn't, I just said Gustav. It was a recoilless, but
like a
SPG9.
SPG9.
Yeah. And
Like
just,
SPG9.
it was during I wasn't at where for this one, but that was, I think that was during Sergeant Brunkhorst's memorial ceremony. And they just went into a full on, like, wow, talk about a time to do that, man. I know that we had the FO up there and they were calling in. And just freaking, I was back on the radio hearing all this come through at Johnston at this point. It's like, oh man, freaking, they got into a tick while they're down there, for the ceremony, because we were just enough guys to man the towers.
Yeah.
And they sent everybody down there, and I was like, yeah, I'll hang back for this one.
Yeah.
I was like, damn it.
So the Army learned a really, important lesson during, not even Vietnam, prior to Vietnam, with Dien Bien Phu. They said, you know what? Whatever the French did there, we want to keep doing. So they usually, when setting up these cops and things like that, they usually find the most
A low ground.
indefensible area that they can, and then put American troops right there so that you're surrounded by high ground.
It wasn't that bad.
It wasn't that bad?
It wasn't that, and we actually had we had an OP that we manned. So I think it was 165 that we had, and Battalion HHC had scouts up on 160. So they had 240s and some sniper rifles and stuff up there, and we had kind of the same deal and a javelin. I know for a fact because like one night they had guys. So at night they'd sit there on the Clue, and you see all sorts of stuff. I mean, one night there was an Afghan bear that was following our patrol. Oh yeah. Hey, a yellow bean. We had a Spanish guy, Hector Trujillo. Hey, there's a yelly bean out there. What are you talking about, man? A yelly bean? And the other guy gets on the Clue and he's like, holy crap, dude, that's a freaking bear. And they're watching this thing track us, and they're like, hey, stop moving, man. This thing's moving like right above your patrol. But like, these are the things you hear about. There's like, one of the guys found a dead, like a lynx or a snow leopard out there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I got pictures of it, man. Like the guy sent in like terabytes of freaking pictures.
Yeah.
Like, the publisher was like, hey, do you have 30 pictures? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I had like 5 grainy Facebook pictures out there. I had nothing. But putting it out there, I was like, guys, look, I got a book deal. I want to get you guys into it. And matter of fact, I think the only picture in there is the author picture of me, which one of the other guys took. Like, that's everything else. I think there's one other picture in there that I show up in, but I tried to get as many of the guys from 1st Platoon in the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of the pictures in here are like, go pretty hard, man.
Yeah.
They're infantry stuff that makes my little pee hard, when you guys are going through the patties and everything.
Yeah, man.
It's hardcore.
There's some of the stuff that guys just snapped. I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, like how I didn't even know. I didn't see anybody snapping these little shutter bugs out there. You
Yeah.
never know. Everybody's got. I do have one that I took, and it's up. I need to find the original because I want to go back and I want to colorize the blossoms. But
Yeah,
there's
That's-
pomegranate. field.
this looks like
It does look.
Oh,
it
yeah,
does look
man.
like Vietnam. Yeah.
hardcore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. And I've got a ton of like. If you guys look at the drive, and I'll show you later, I'll give you like access to it or something. There's a ton of those pictures like that coming through. Just
Yeah, we'll put some of those like some of them up on Patreon and stuff for our
Yeah.
subscribers
Yeah, sure.
to see.
It's
Because
just-
it's there are things in here that it's like Jack says, like there are things in here that when you think of Afghanistan, you don't think about this. Like you don't think about guys wading through canals
No.
with vegetation around them.
Helmand Province was that was your typical Afghanistan dry desert, moon dust. Feel like Lawrence of Arabia. You're sitting on Tatooine, where the guy's rolling by with a digital. Casio. Oh, yeah. You hear it too. You hear it. But that was our first. Like, I mean, even the. Again, that first firefight was Halloween. That's why the book was released on Halloween. Crazy enough, this year it was on a Tuesday, but Halloween was our first firefight in Helmand Province. His first platoon, the majority of us, and we just rolled up on the Afghans. Took off. They decided, hey,
Your Afghan partners.
Yeah. Hey, we're close enough to the house. We're only a mile out. See ya. And we're like, we're gonna clear the culverts and do it right. I don't feel like getting blown up today. And we come up and their Hilux is like smashed into the wall of one of those villages, one of the mud huts out there. And we're like, And all of a sudden we're taking incoming. You're hearing the gunner's like, oh crap, like we're in it. And we were truck number 2, and we had a Mark 19 mounted with a 240. And in front of us is one of those Cougar, the V-holes. It's massive. And this is a raised road. And the guys were so close. They had a squad-size element with a support by fire in the wood line. They knew what they were doing. Like bounding up, using the village as cover and stuff. On these 2 poor freaking Afghan police. They must have been so happy to see us roll up. Because they were right there. Like as soon as... So I tell the LT, I'm driving vehicle number 2, and I tell the LT, I look over at him, I'm like, hey man, like we need to get this thing into the fight. Like, can I go around, use their vehicle as cover and get us out there? It's like, don't get us killed. Little Lieutenant Smith, little guy. And we come around, and as we're coming around, they were so close, the gunner of the vehicle couldn't traverse the 50 down.
Wow.
All right. And he does the first thing comes to his mind. He scoops up the driver's. And I was like, when I heard this, and I went back and started kind of AARing, I'm like, there's no way this happened. It's just like those superhuman moments that happen in battle. And I caught it from Sergeant Rush, which was one of the HHC scouts. He was underneath. He handed the driver's saw up. He threw the saw up into the turret with this dude, and he one motion jumped up into this turret and smoked 2 dudes. Just Sergeant Cannon or Specialist Cannon at the time. And I was just and I'm wide, I see this happen as I'm coming around. The guy just eyes as big as saucers. And just cut down right there, and it's like, oh my god, holy crap, this is awesome.
This is war now.
Yeah. And we pull out in front, and Kohler starts getting on the Mark 19, hitting the freaking wood line, where we're catching all this machine gun fire from. They had set up, out there, and we're pummeling that.
Bomb that wood line 100 yards back. Give me room to breathe.
The first few were right in front of us. It's like, Kohler, Jesus, get it on target. It gets it out there and it's reaching out. And they dismounted, and I mean it was like the perfect L-shaped ambush. We rolled right through, free support by fire. His gun went down at one point. The Mark 19, something happened to where someone had put the dang rounds in upside down or something in the box. I don't know. Or he had to switch over and just stick to the 240, at one point after we went through the first box, because that was it. It was like, stick with the 240 freaking keep hitting them, But yeah, L-shaped ambush, rolled right through. The medic actually, as they're assaulting, saved one of the enemy. You know, team leader Sergeant Anderson comes up and checks the dude. Dude's still alive. You know, he kicks the weapon away, and he's like, "Save this guy!" And freaking Pon's like, "Come on, man! He's just shooting at us." It's like, "Dude, I said save him. We're gonna freaking interrogate him," you know. And see a little battlefield care and stuff out there, and rolled him up afterwards and stuff. But yeah, I mean, threw a few guys in the body bags, and it wasn't everybody. You know, we took 3 or 4 bodies, tossed them in there, threw them in the trunk. And this was we had been coming back from, it was like a 3 or 5 day, so we just wanted to get back. Mm-hmm. And we had been told, you know, hey, the Brits have a little Halloween party going on tonight, and we're like, dude, we're all right. And we roll up to the next checkpoint. We're like, what are we doing? And our platoon sergeant, sure enough, is like, just throw the bodies at the bottom of the driveway. We're out of here. You know, guys get out and they throw, you know, the body bags down at the very bottom of the hill, and they're like, good luck with that. And he just took off down the lash. Then, you know, within the next hour, we're sitting around a campfire with the Brits telling war stories and shooting the shit, if you will.
But definitely following General Order Number 1, right? Definitely.
Always.
So how you know, because we kind of went to your time in Kandahar, but up in Helmand, like, how often would you guys get into ticks?
That was weird. So Advon got into some rowdy stuff before we even got there, and there was nothing. So the Brits were rolling around in soft skins all the time, and they were just getting lit up left and right. So Gurkhas were out there, and they had like just crazy stories, and you'd see stuff come back all shot up and whatnot. Like, I felt bad for the guys. I'm like, man, you guys are going out in like little light-skinned, no armor Land Rover Defenders. Like, that sucks. Like, why don't you have us roll with you, man? Like, come on. Like, we want to get into it too. They probably won't even. It's like they'd get on the radio. You'd hear it. Hey, circle squares are coming, back off. You know, and that's the patch of the 82nd looks like a circle with a square. So they didn't want to mess with us. And, you know, that situation in particular was really, we rolled up on that. So that was just by chance.
Right.
There was another, and this happened the night of the Mexican standoff, actually.
Can you tell that story, the Mexican standoff?
Oh, absolutely.
Along with.
That's where I was just segueing right into it.
Okay. Yeah.
I know, that's a great.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I had to put it all in there. You know, and I was like, man, like I can't remember who said it. They're like, dude, you're gonna put that stuff in there too. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. If I can't look at myself and doing something stupid like that. So yeah, earlier. Our little element, they kind of chunked us up, and they had us sitting back, and they went forward to go clear out Papazai out there. So this was a joint. There was Afghans, Afghan commandos, Brits. Like, our guys were going out there from 3rd and from it was mainly 3rd and 2nd, but there was some for it was everybody was out there. And who we got coming in? Got someone talking on there?
No, somebody just talked about the Halloween gunfight, which I think you're.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're behind a little. I know,
Are we
I'm
behind?
sorry.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
I see that, and I'm like, all right. What
Yeah.
are they saying? Like,
Yeah.
I threw myself off track.
No, that's okay. So,
we're going with Papazai. So clearing out Papazai. And so the Afghans actually ended up hitting. They hit an IED coming in there to where, I mean, it just, you're a Hilux with guys in the back of a truck.
Yeah.
Like, the pressure in the air is just like ripping apart. Those GI Joes when you're messing around as a kid, like arms, legs, freaking just everywhere, you know? Yeah. I mean, to have a human ripped apart like that. And they said the vehicle just went like flying over theirs. Like, they just see this thing just, and body parts just fly over. Holy crap.
Yeah.
We're in the rear, like, and that's all we heard. But then it just went into a vehicle recovery ops, and they were just sitting out there trying to pull one of these Max Pros out, and it just ended up into this 72-hour goat fuck of a mission. So we're coming back on this thing. Everybody's sleep deprived. Everybody's been up. We have been rotating through in our truck, but I mean, really, like, nobody slept. Just, I don't even know how that happened, because you would think priorities of work. You'd be like, hey, sleep. But I think we were just down to like a 3-man crew in the truck. One was on the radio, one was in the turret, the other one's supposed to be sleeping, but it's so freaking hot.
Right.
Like our like the thermometer on the watch was reading out at 140 degrees.
Wow.
Like, it's when you're sitting there and you're seeing the salt
Yeah.
gain up on your uniform, and you're just like, I know I'm sweating right now. I can't feel myself sweating right now. It doesn't feel like it, but I feel like I'm in an easy bake. Like I better be drinking water.
Yeah.
So we're coming back, and everybody's like nodding out, you know, and I'm like, I'm good. I've never fallen asleep. I feel super awake. You know, backseat, they're definitely racked out. The TC's kind of like, you know, which is Sergeant Ackers, and he's kind of bobbing out. I'm like, hey man, don't worry about it, dude. I'll be fine.
You're
good.
driving?
Yeah, I'm driving.
Yeah.
I'm good. Nesbitt's in the turret. Nesbitt, you good, man? Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Right.
And we're in this convoy, man, and you think like, I mean, this is, you know, convoys, and sometimes you get the slow down, all right, go, and there's that long snake, and like we are out in the middle of this long desert, like this big stupid convoy coming out. There's no tactical anything, like this is dumb, and we're going down, and I'm like tracking behind this truck, and all of a sudden next second it's you know, and that truck is right there, those red lights, and I'm like you know?
Yeah.
And the I know the gunner was asleep because he had that stamp on his face. Like, and yeah, I smashed into this Ranger. And I mean, Afghan bowling pins just boof, like out of the back of this thing. Oh, shit. And I was like, oh my God, I just hit this truck. You know, no armor on this thing, in an up-armored Humvee, which is, I mean, I don't even know, like, how many tons? Are those 5 ton? Like they're
I have no idea.
Something like that.
At that point, like, I mean, you're just ridiculous. It was like that final iteration before they said, all right, Humvees, we can't slap on enough armor on a Humvee to make it actually get on the road.
Or whatever. Yeah.
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 So, I mean, this is a heavy ass vehicle. I crushed that whole bat right up to the cab, you know, and I didn't know at this point if, you know, what happened to these guys. And I'm like, oh my God. And Ackers is holy shit, you just freaking, and these guys are starting to collect themselves and stuff. And I'm like, do I get out?
Yeah.
Do we go to assist? Like, what happens
Do I
here?
give my insurance information?
yeah. Hey, Geico,
And you're like,
a sponsor.
USA,
yeah.
Since
You're in good hands.
Since it's Afghans and everybody else is asleep, you're like, they totally just backed up right into us, super fast. Yeah.
I mean, they knew what was up.
Yeah.
But the commander comes over, and he's yelling at them, and they're lining up. And they're starting to, like, rack their weapons and stuff. And I'm like, oh, shoot. The guy in the gunner turret, he's getting freaked out. And he's like, dude, like, hey, what's going on here, man? Like, are we going to shoot these freaking dudes? Like, are we about to get into a fight? He's starting to freak out. See his legs shaking. And the commander comes up to my window, and he pulls out his pistol. And he, get out. And I'm like, I look over at Ackers, and he's like, whatever you do not get out of this freaking vehicle. That is an order. I'm like, all right. Like, we're in this. So I actually, like, I mean, didn't even notice it, but I'm like down there. I put the thing in a 4 high, and I'm like, all right, here we go. Freaking one on the foot, one on the gas. Like, get ready to freaking punch it and mow these dudes over. Like, start looking at your exit options. And out of nowhere, you know, I mean, I can't see what's going on outside of there. And this was the first mission Lieutenant Demarest, which took over in the Argandab, was on. But he was back with Lieutenant Smith, and he was kind of showing him the platoon and everything. And they come running up to defuse the situation with their interpreter, and he's just making it worse.
The interpreter is, or the officer?
The interpreter. Yeah. He's like fumbling on his words. He's never been in a high stress situation like this.
Getting nervous.
The commander's got a pistol out. I mean, what do they use pistols for in Afghanistan? That's how they executions. You know, I mean, that is one of the weird things about Afghans.
Was this the ANA or the ANP that you guys were working with?
So we hit a truck full of commandos on this one.
Oh, commandos. Okay.
So like ANP was there with us too, but this was commando, like Afghan Army commandos out there. It was like, oh God. And his commander came up and pistol whipped the other guy, which is what saved the freaking between that and
wait, the ANP commander?
The ANA commander.
The ANA commander?
bam, like the other commander that was, the lining
commando.
guys up and escalating this, and this other guy came out of nowhere and just like cracked him and was like, you realize y'all are about to die kind of thing. But there's Gucci came up, and I think he was the company's interpreter at the time, and he just diffused the whole thing. He got right at like a pro.
Yeah.
Just immediately talking straight at the guy. Hey, don't worry, he's going to be severely punished and all. Throwing whatever smoke up their butts that he could.
Right.
That he knew the cultural traditions and stuff behind. But man, that was the first time Saved by Gucci.
Yeah.
That guy was legit.
Yeah. Yeah. So, were any of the Afghans like
One guy busted leg. One guy.
Yeah.
And that was it. Like,
yeah.
Man, talk about that could have been way worse.
Yeah. So for people who might not be aware, when we're talking about Hiluxes or Rangers, it's kind of the same truck, I
Tacoma.
think. But it's a small Toyota truck. They don't sell Hiluxes. I don't in the U.S.
It really is. I think is it a Tacoma body? Like
I thought it was.
I think the Hilux is basically a Tacoma that runs on diesel fuel.
Is it?
And yeah, they don't sell them here.
Yeah.
No, not the diesel drivetrain and stuff. Oh man, that'd be so cool to.
I know. I've looked into it. Many others have looked into it. They don't sell them here.
I built a Cummins Wrangler at one point. Like
Really?
actually, when I was in the Q course, yeah, I took a 3BT. What if the motor and slapped it in? Is a 3.9 liter or something like that? It's a bread truck motor, but same concept.
Yeah.
Freaking awesome. 38 miles to the gallon on 35-inch tires. So they're doing okay.
It's not bad.
No,
Not bad at
yeah.
all.
These days.
Yeah. So did they go back to base with you guys, or like did they peel off? Like
no. Everything was like they came back. They came back to Lash. They were either based out of there, or like right before there. It was kind of just smoothed out.
Yeah.
I didn't, as a Joe, I didn't really see.
Yeah.
And that kind of segued from that to Walton. There wasn't too much more time there.
Yeah.
I think we were there another 3 weeks or so after that. And that's when we had the marching orders forward. And it was like, all right, well, this has been fun, and we're done with this highway. Like, we're going somewhere else. This is going to be great. Until it wasn't. So did you, when you guys were up in Helmand, did you have any casualties within was it your company up there, or was it? Yeah. So yeah, we didn't take anything from up there, and I don't remember anybody from any of the other platoons. I know like it was kind of, even out there we were even separated. Like there was 2 platoons staying. So headquarters, I think it was 2nd platoon again. That's right. 2nd platoon was out of Lashkargah. So there's a little small compound out, like they have a corner out there. It's Camp Diamond. And that's where the U.S. would stay. And I think that we kind of took that compound over from National Guard. So like we had a bunch of their, oh man, I'm trying to think of the acronym for it, the name for the equipment that they leave behind that stays in country. So because I remember grabbing a bunch of that because like we were low on machine guns, man, like saws. There was actually a congressional launch right before we left because of, we were like, hey man, like we're down on firepower. Like what is up with this?
Mm-hmm.
And somebody said something to their congressman, and they tried to make sure we were going to get it right. T&E, TPE, something like that.
T&E or BII is another term for the vehicle equipment.
No, yeah, it wasn't BII. I can't remember the name of but somebody out there knows it.
Yeah, and I know what you're
Extra
saying.
guns.
Yeah, it's the equipment that belongs to the base, basically,
Yes.
and any soldiers that deployed to that particular base fall in on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so we.
It's not the TO&E, is it? No.
That's a table of organization and equipment that.
Man, are we getting tripped up on our own acronyms?
We are.
now?
Yeah, we are.
That's actually one of the things that there was one person who read this thing, and it was an author, and it was like a Goodreads 4 stars. So I was like curious, and she like very quickly like, oh, no, like I'm like I'm actually genuinely curious why, like from the civilian standpoint. And she's like, honestly, I love the book, but the acronyms, like thank God you had the guide.
Yeah,
in
you
there.
had the guide in the back. So
And I tried to keep it, but I do know like in the beginning, like as I'm trying to familiarize with, it can be a bit daunting.
Yeah.
That's that tough.
But it's also very difficult, I think, to write or talk about it
The military without using it.
without using the acronyms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a few things though in there to where like, so in certain parts to where guys it goes from last names to first names. And that is like, I mean, by the end of it, we did have that type of familiarity and stuff. It kind of was like everybody realized at one point, hey man, like that end of the discipline end is no longer, you're tight. You can anticipate your moves. Matter of fact, it was anticipating each other's moves to the point to where when the replacements came in, we were like, liability, man. Like, we would almost, and it was the wrong thing to do, quite honestly, but like shown them a little bit. Like, we had one kid, first patrol out with us.
Yeah.
And thank God for him. It was buried too deep, and it only shattered his ankle. And he's out there, screaming in the middle of the night and stuff. And me and Doc are like, "Oh, this is going to be bad." And we get up, and what's wrong? It was just buried too deep, shattered his ankle.
It reminds me of was it The Thin Red Line or an old like World War II movie or whatever, where nobody wants to know the Cherry's name until he's
It's in A Band of Brothers when the new
There's a
guys
bunch of-
the new guys show up.
Yeah,
and
and
it's
it's
like they were interviewing one of the actual World War II veterans, and he's saying like you don't really want to get to know them too well because you'll miss them if they get killed.
Yeah.
You'll feel bad.
yeah.
No, it was starting to. I mean, at one point, like I was approached by the platoon sergeant, like, "Hey man, like I'm gonna have to rotate you back into the towers, like because we just don't have the personnel." And I'm like, "Hey man, like I get it.
Yeah.
You got to do what you got to do."
Yeah.
It's,
So when you guys, we talked a little bit about when you went down to Kandahar and then when you established the COP, but when you guys got down there, was the patrol that you told us about, was that the first time that, it's like you took casualties?
it's the first time we took, and that really took the wind out of the sails, because like you go from that high moment from Helmand
Right.
to where you had this picture perfect ambush, and it was almost like, man, like we really, I mean, we were a rowdy crew
Yeah.
for sure. They definitely could lay down. I mean, that's the whole reason why direct action, like we had a few times to where we got into a little bit of a tick with them and stuff, but they didn't like messing with us.
Yeah.
That was the first one that was, it took the wind out of our sails. And Johnston was kind of that guy that it didn't matter. He had been there from the prior one. So he was like, there was this hierarchy to where, even if you were a specialist, but if you had a freaking deployment patch,
Right.
They ran that whole, hey, it doesn't matter if you're the same rank. He's got a deployment patch. He's got experience, like F you.
Right.
But he wasn't somebody that would hold that over your head. He was just a really personable guy. You could talk to him about really anything. He didn't spread stuff around, any rumors and stuff. So for that to happen to him, and he had actually pushed to be there. He had something like which is why he had a beard. So he had a shaving profile. And our first sergeant was like an old guard guy.
Freaking out about it, I bet.
Oh my God. Well, he didn't want him to go forward with us. He was like, "You ain't going nowhere, Johnston. I want
Your
you to
gas mask won't seal if they hit us with mustard gas.
First
You're
sergeant, why is that troop hitting?
Yeah.
Why is he wearing a gas mask in formation?" Oh my God. Yeah, Mac probably would have, if he thought about that, he probably would have had him wearing a mask. But yeah, he's telling him to hide out kind of thing and everything. And this kid actually went to Sergeant Major and was like, "Look, man, like I know I had they straight up had a skin sample at the CDC trying to find out what this was. And it was from the prior deployment. They were up in the mountains. Yeah, so he had something like it wasn't this kid's fault and he wasn't getting ingrown stuff like that because of that. It was just he had a nasty reaction and it was a disease thing on his face. They're trying to figure it out. So he went to the Sergeant Major, Command Sergeant Major Puckett, and he was like, send me forward with the guys. Like, come on, man. And he's like, well, is it hampering you? Or, okay, fine. Like, and he kind of pulled Mac aside, like, dude, this guy wants to go. He's got experience. Like, let's let him go. And he joined us out there, and then that.
Yeah.
And, and really, that one affected Command Sergeant Major Puckett too, and I took that side in there, and that was a rough chapter, right? That actually got put into there really last minute, and it's the morgue scene where Puckett realizes who got hit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and there's we had guys coming back from mid-tour. It was James Lee, I think Hammer was with him, and Brunk. Yeah. And Lee was like, I was his team leader, like, let me go, and identify the body kind of thing. Because they had been talking to Towery, and he went in with Puckett, and I kind of got that end of the story from them. And it's just, it's heart-wrenching, man. Like, and then to have that, to see someone so, Puckett was somebody that, he jumped into Panama. He's got a mustard stain.
I was going to say that name sounds very familiar.
His family's got a little bit of a military past too, but he was just that hard charging picture of what we held an NCO to be.
Right.
During the train up for all of this, they were pretty intense. But the thing that differentiated him and the rest of the command team over with us is that they were always out there with us. They were freezing their butts off with us. Like there was a incident to where we had one guy go down from hypothermia, and we bring him back in, and there's Puckett there making sure we're okay on everything else, sleeping alongside of us out in the sun. You don't get people that do that,
Yeah.
Or when you do, it's the real deal.
Yeah.
They're trying to get a feel for their men and see really. They're not sitting up on the hillside drinking the. All right, the troops
Right.
better over
Pins
here.
on a map, man. Pins on a map.
Well, but I kid you not, like later on, like we're out on a patrol and you hear, you're like, oh, cool, we got ISR. Like they're looking out for us. And then, a sergeant major's wondering why your sleeves are rolled up. And it's like, are you freaking kidding me right now? Like you're supposed to be eyes on around us and you're worried about our freaking uniform infringements. Like, are you
Real-time
freaking
intelligence
kidding me?
turns into real-time oversight.
Private, get your hands out of your pockets.
Dude, like when it goes to that, that's when you're like, oh my God.
Yeah. So who was it then? Because you mentioned when you guys took that IED that you were calling back and they didn't believe you. Was it the ground force commander that didn't believe you? Was it back at the TOC that didn't
It was
believe
it was back of the company talk. It was more like they knew the boom happened. It was just like that disbelief of like how's he so calm? Did that really just was that really them? Like did they actually but then it went into high gear. And catching some of the story end from some of the guys that were there, they afterwards were like, I can't believe we just did. And even talking about it, like they ran to us. And you're thinking, these guys are crafty enough to where absolutely, set some stuff in, explode it. If that's their SOP is to like run through a friggin' minefield to get to you, make sure you're all right. Heck yeah, lay out some tripwires or some other stuff. Absolutely. And I wouldn't put it past. The teams we had out there the emplacement teams were good. The mines were that simple in nature, but that's what works. And that's why, it was simple in nature, but you could look at to where they'd make cuts in tree lines and stuff to where your natural, your eyes were naturally moved to that spot, like hunting techniques that you use on deer and stuff, and just get you to flow into it naturally.
Now, those were the mines that they were putting on the footpaths and stuff. Were you guys experiencing EFPs?
We didn't. Footpaths?
Or
like
not
footpaths. You couldn't go you couldn't even go. That was like, we had a big patrol map overlay.
Yeah.
And like, that was one of the biggest struggles was like, okay, like checker points here. All right. Well, oh no, we've been through here before. You'd be out and you'd be like, whoa, wait a minute. I remember that over here. Like we're in a bad spot. Like we need to either back or freaking go this way or, we've been through here.
I shouldn't have said footpaths. I meant more like dismounted avenues of approach and whatnot. Like, so they had those. Were you guys in your vehicles? Were you also experiencing EFPs at that point in time?
When we hit Arghandab, like we did nothing vehicles. That was
you
probably
didn't take any vehicles off.
Heck no. Like, once we were there in place, everything was light. We walked everywhere.
Okay.
And it was a small AO.
Yeah.
You would not want to, you wouldn't want to take vehicles into the Arghandab.
Yeah.
Like even just getting some supplies into Johnston. Most of the time our mail would come in once a month on a sling load and they drop it out in front of the, out in the field. And that was it. That's all you get. Once a month, a big tri-wall would come in. You get one full of water and one full of mail. So yeah, fun times.
So then what, so we're back, at your cop now, and like, what are your I know that you guys are shorthanded there. You're manning the towers, you're providing security, but you're also still patrolling
constantly.
And what was the climate like during these patrols in terms of enemy activity and whatnot?
The psychological mindfuck that would happen, because there really wouldn't. I mean, you just had to stay. You had to stay hard postured.
Yeah.
You know, because the second you either, we had one towards the end to where it was like, let's go out there looking messed up. We even tried. We asked the CO, you know, because we occasionally would send people back into Kandahar. There was one time, I think it was 2 months prior, where they sent the LT out there for like food money stuff or something. We ended up in Kandahar for some reason or other. And they were trying to go to the PX out there to get the unit patches that were incoming. We're like, dude, let's slap those bad boys on there, because you know that they always try you after that. Like, let's show them what's up so the new unit doesn't have it so bad. And the CO would not let us do it. He's like, no, you are not authorized. You know, I find out about it. But what are you going to do? But yeah, they would just ghost. They would just pull out and disappear. So like one in particular, you know, we came up and the guys were preparing themselves to, you know, blow themselves up. They had vests ready to go. They were shaving themselves.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, we straight up, let's run across them in this orchard. We were out with second squad with Bobby Muscle's squad, and the guys scooped up their AKs and I was like, oh, that was dumb. Got online and, you know, came through, and we found there was a cache of like 50 detonators sitting up in this like hole of a tree.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And like in an area like that, like it actually died down for a little bit, just due to the cache we found. But yeah, like, I mean, it was all either by chance or like there's another one, the chapter Battle Shits. The squad leader.
That should have been the title of the book.
Right. The same squad. I don't know why that was the absolute worst squad to piss off. They were already anger squad. Like, these guys rolled hard all the time, and I mean anything. Like, yeah, it was just it. Like, they would be up your butt. But yeah, so they're out there, and Sergeant Muscle he had his nasty case of dysentery, and we came in. We were going to run, you know, RNS patrols to split it up and just run four to 6 mans, you know, while leaving the rest in Overwatch back. And this was actually out of Manjoy, and he's taking a squat, and the team leaders are putting security in. We have a machine gunner and a grenadier on top of there, and I'm below him with a doc, and we're just, you know, we had just gotten there. So I'm radioing in our front line, hey, we're in the compound over here, this and that. And we hear this cracking through the trees. I'm like, what the heck? Like, punk. And it conked off of a tree limb that was hanging like right past the wall. Went around the corner, boom! Pineapple grenade. The guy still actually has the spoon. Freaking, he was using it as a key fob for his Jeep. But yeah, this grenade goes off, you know, and here's Bobby down, you know, he was just taking a crap, and he's still got it flowing out, and he's ripping it up and throwing his kid on. I've never seen anybody in one motion, you know, do something like that. And he throws it on and immediately just straight into stack up on the freaking door, you know, and above us, he's trying to shoot down into the orchard. It's Mad Minute at this point. They're firing up with AKs, and he's firing, but he can't traverse the gun low enough once again. And this is a 240. All right, so 23 pound. Yeah, that's right. Hell, I got the freaking poundage right. I said 29 before at the book launch, and he's
oh,
like,
man, you'll get torn apart for that.
Actually.
yeah, I know,
You will
right?
get torn apart for that.
Hold on, was it a Limo or a Bravo?
Yeah, yeah. And God forbid you get the feet per second, whatever it is, like the velocity of the round.
There are
wrong,
people
right?
leave comments on our videos like every
Oh,
day.
I
Well,
guarantee
actually, like the guy who was actually
He's waiting. The trolls are waiting right now.
They're like correct-
Oh, he corrected himself.
correcting the guy who was actually in the firefight, like slaying bodies. Well, actually, I think that the caliber is okay, dude.
But we love you guys in the comments. So
Right.
Not all of them.
That gives
no,
them
we love you all. We love you all.
every single one of them. So he's trying to fire down in there, but he ended up shoulder firing, this 240 to get it down. He's getting splinters to the face, and he thought it was it. He thought he was done. It's especially James Staples. And the other guy up there, Chris Wiesner, who's the grenadier, and he yells down to his team leader, Hammer. Hammer, I could see why. Hammer was a hard ass. But he goes down, Hammer, are we shooting? He's, yeah, man, freaking let him fly. And he hadn't fired he hadn't fired this thing in so long, and it went so far wide, like everybody, it was the weirdest. The whole gunfight just went total silent. And you see this thing, as soon as it went out of the tube, total silence, way over the village, and you hear it in the background, and then it just lights back up, and he figured it out from that point and found his mojo and just went full cyclic. I think he put like 12 rounds down into the compound next to us that we caught this fire from. Everything in there. When they flowed out and into there was like it was like a small barnyard in there. There was cows and chickens and goats. Everything was dead, like just all over the place. All the livestock of these people, basically their livelihood. And they flow in. First door they kick open, that's out back. As Hammer, was behind Muscle, he's coming up, and in the doorway of the next door materializes an old dude with 2 kids clinging to his legs. And Hammer had that split-second decision. He looked at his hands, and he muzzle punched the dude and got him down on the ground, took him out. But
yeah,
talk about the right thing.
Yeah.
And having that positive ID, like that was because people wouldn't have faulted him either if he just smoked him right there. Honestly.
It's a hard decision. Like people don't understand how fast things like that happen, and you can go from hero to zero and nothing flat if you make the wrong call. Either way.
Yeah, especially because later on there was a whole thing to where I don't know if it had any deals with hesitancy with any of our incidents, this particular one, but later on there was stories of like things circulating to where one guy went to jail, not in our company. This was someone that knew somebody over in regiment, actually, where he cut down some squirters. They'd just been fired at from this position, and they're shooting at the compound, and it's clear that these freaking dudes are the ones that were just doing the shooting at him. And of course, what would any machine gunner do? Brrrah!
Yeah.
And he went to freaking jail for that. So when you start having to second think whether you take the shot or not, that's bad news right there.
Yeah.
Bad news.
Yeah, it got tough. I remember, and I think we've talked about this before, but I remember an SF guy in Oregon, probably around that time, telling me that anytime they fired their weapon, there'd be, what's the investigate, the 15-6?
15-6.
Oh, yeah.
Or not a 15-6. They probably, because that's an informal inquiry, but they probably did a sworn statement. We started doing those too in Iraq. But understand, JAG's doing that to protect you, the soldier.
Yeah.
That's not because they're trying to fuck you. That's because they're trying to keep you out of trouble.
But it's wild when you start ripping down the red tape.
There's a legal document for every shooting. It's
Yeah.
like, is this a war?
Yeah, and that's the thing is that we've had JTACs or FO CCTs on, like the litany of things that they had to read. In order to clear fires, like troops in contact.
We are taking effective fire.
We have identified that there are no
That was
civilians.
a lesson later on actually learned by our CO, to where we had up on our OP, we had guys one night on the clue, positive ID on a bomb emplacement team, watching these guys put in the bomb. Like, hey, we got 3-4 guys here. And let's hit him with the javelin, man. We're freaking spun up. We got him on lock. Let's do it. And CO's like, hey, hold on. I'm going to call up the battalion. Even though I know. And he goes back and was like, I should have just freaking told him, take it.
Yeah.
That was his authority at the time. But he was like, let me double check with battalion. And he did. And they're like, oh, we got snipers across the way. Let them try to take it. Well, nobody told them.
Yeah.
Talk about a freaking unprepared for one. Snipers didn't have any rifles up and ready to go.
Yeah.
And they take this shot with an unsilenced 240 in the middle of the freaking night. What do you think happened?
Yeah.
There's your bomb team gone.
I've heard countless stories where the drone operators are following a guy in a vehicle. They go through the whole targeting criteria.
Yep.
They get it cleared. And if the Hellfire like falls just a little short, the guy bails out of the car and runs, and they just have to let him go because like it would take so much time to work through the whole scenario again.
Yep.
It's crazy.
And the simple fact is there were not squirters in Afghanistan. There were maneuver elements. And even if like they knew the deal, they would drop their weapons. They would run.
They're not stupid.
They would run to a cache.
Yep.
They would grab more weapons
Yep.
and then open fire on the troops when the troops were like maneuvering on the objective or whatever. There were no squirters. And for somebody to go to jail, for somebody to be punished, like they're just maneuver elements.
Well, it's just like life is different out there to where you get the stories of like entire villages. Like they're pulling up arms from the rear and they're having the women and kids do it. And it's like, whoa, man, like you don't realize this stuff happens.
It's a case of the commanders greatly exceeding our treaty obligations to international law.
Yeah.
Like a guy who is a squirter is not surrendering.
No.
Right.
Right, that's a lawful target.
Yeah.
There's nothing illegal about, but they made the ROE because of the coin and what we're as you get.
But when you start to muddle that in the
it gets
battlefield,
ridiculous to a
like
point.
coin worked well with the villagers, like to a point. But when they start playing that end of things, and you know what they're doing, and they know
they're lawful enemy combatants. That's all there is.
And what's funny is like they pick these things from coin. It's like, oh, hearts and minds. But then, talk about like Scott Mann earlier. They don't really want to do hearts and minds because it doesn't brief well. They just want to pretend that they're doing hearts and minds enough to further their career.
Yeah, it's where there has to be the sanity check where people ask, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
And
even the talks with the higher ups that I've had, and even the first draft of the forward that came back from General Hodges, like they have all echoed it. Like we went in without a plan, without any way to work out of it. Like there was no way forward. Like why were we really there? And it was just that constant like feed the machine, keep it rolling.
And the thing is, what's very frustrating about it is, okay, it was a response to 9/11. We went in without a plan. Fine. The plan is to kill AQ, and then by proxy or because, I don't know, America was bored. And
it was really over in the first 2 years.
Yeah. It was over fast.
Yeah.
And then we decided the Taliban was our enemy. And then it's like,
let's go chasing Webbits.
Then it's like, okay, we went in without a plan, or the plan was to kill AQ, which is fine.
Yeah.
Then now what's the plan? And the sin in it isn't that we didn't have a plan, but over 20 years we never developed a plan.
we just developed new acronyms.
Yeah, and I'm sure that there are a lot of bronze stars awarded for those acronyms and the PowerPoints and everything created.
That's the really tough thing, I think, for a lot. Maybe I'm speaking just for myself, but I find that the difficult thing to deal with or to reconcile is that not that it was the effort was a failure or anything like that, but that we sent soldiers over there over and over and over again just because like we lacked a better idea.
Yeah.
Right. Like maybe the better idea was to withdraw, but whatever that idea was. Yeah. It's all in the rearview mirror now, but that we kept deploying soldiers for 20 years just because we lacked the creativity to come up with something else.
But here it is again, though. I mean, and that's the worrisome part is when you see it, like just like the continuation of, it's like, what's the end state? Where are you going with this?
Right.
You can't Team America World Police forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, but a cop, I think, and this is one of the reasons why I think conventional forces need to get their stories out there, because the cops are perfect examples of what was wrong with our war, and that somebody said this area is important and we need a presence there, but the presence is going to be so thin. Like we're not going to dominate. We're not going to dominate this area.
Gotcha.
We're just going to put a bunch of soldiers out there and Marines out there to be targets, without the support necessary.
I don't really see like like where we were, I didn't really see it that way. Now, I mean, with some of that, with this necessary support, I know things would have been a little different with like if we had a Signet team out there listening. Like we did have like the, hey, here Terps, like here's something to listen to that. Let us know when chatter comes across. And yeah, you'd get that, but that's a hell of a lot different when you have. Oh man, I'm trying to think of the name because I know one of them too. Because that's the first thing he asked. Like, why didn't we have one of these teams out there? And I'm
like the Sade teams. And
Sade,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
That's the first thing he asked. Well, where was Sade? And I'm like, quite honestly, I'm not sure. Like, I know our company commander at that time probably didn't know about him.
Right.
I'm pretty sure a battalion commander didn't either.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's things that just weren't pushed to us that probably should have been.
Yeah.
At one point, you know, I know they were running like ground sensors and stuff, and there
Yeah.
was like certain things that, you know, really essentially what it ended up being overall though was we were building these targeting packages for task force, and we were a little bittersweet about it because like when we had like a fully completed package, you call this stuff up and it's like, all right, you know, I'll record on, you know, the drill, and it's like, bro, that's our kill, man. Like,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah,
That's somebody
yeah,
that was
yeah.
killing our guys.
Yeah.
Like that feels kind of freaking
Yeah.
crappy. And then, all right, well, we're up tomorrow night. You're going back out. Like, dude, like, come on, man. Like, let us get some retribution here.
Yeah.
You know, for something here.
Yeah.
'Cause, I mean, we
Or
ran.
let us do our job, be infantry.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. Like, we are doing a FID mission. Like,
Right.
and we normally kill and destroy, which anybody, man, like, that is one thing with soft and stuff. A lot of the guys over there that are worth it will tell you there's nobody that wrecks house more like on that when it's something on like an invasion or you just need to freaking pummel something. Conventional army on the infantry side is greatly suited at that.
I mean, the armor side too, like conventional army can fight wars.
Yeah.
You know, if you know.
Man,
Let
hearing
'em off the
artillery
leash.
come overhead, like while
Yeah.
you're maneuvering, you're
Yeah, exactly. Artillery,
oh,
yeah.
Like,
they
golly,
they can
man.
fight wars, you know. Yeah, it's very frustrating, and I know that like in your book you talk about you saw like this devolution, I guess, or I don't want to say evolution, but like there were leadership challenges too, like right that. Oh, I thought that like
I'm trying to remember which one.
Well, I'm just talking about how like leaders were getting relieved that necessarily shouldn't have been.
Yeah. So that was like a whole big thing where, I mean, it was our battalion commander, and Sergeant Major. They got relieved for cause, you know, and it ended up being told to us, like the story came down that it was just, it had to do with a racist image in a PowerPoint presentation that was a black guy in chains saying like, relieve us from this oppression. Like, so these slides would be put in, they were called like demotivational slides, and they were supposed to like kind of break up just because of everything happening out there. They were supposed to break it up. Well, I don't know how that was breaking it up. And really what was told to us and what the scuttlebutt between the guys was that there was a plant. Like those guys weren't even there for that. They had never approved that slide deck. It was just someone put it in there and command was like, you got to take responsibility for it. I mean, it's a pretty gnarly screw up. And the whole big thing too was that they were this one was also being broadcast back to Pentagon type stuff.
Oh, that didn't go over well.
Yeah, that was like an instant.
That was suboptimal outcomes.
So you have battalion command getting relieved, and then of course, shortly thereafter, then you have McChrystal getting pulled out of command as well. Shortly thereafter, so you're having just situation after situation of like this building storm where guys are like, "What's going on?" Like the head from command is coming out. This is where Petraeus came in on really where I was able to get a hold of him. He was tracking, like he knew. And even Hodges. So Hodges had come out, General Hodges had come out at one point to do the BDA, battle drill assessment, on something that happened. I had said Gondigan region before. That was that highway right there. So these guys were operating out of this compound with the Afghan police. It was like an ANCOP compound out of Gondigan. What was HHC 1508? And we had no idea. They were 850 meters away. Okay. And would have had no idea if it wasn't for the Blue Force tracker saying, hey, like, bloop, like Sergeant Hill's looking and he's like, who the hell? Who's this? So we sent a patrol down there. And the HAC first sergeant was like, I don't need infantry out here telling me how to do my freaking job, get lost. And we're like, dude, we just came out here to share TTPs and like find out who the heck you guys were. Like, we're right over here. You might want to chill on some of this stuff and like push things out.
So the HAC, the headquarters company, is out there to do a battle damage assessment. Is that
No. They're just out there doing something with the NCOP.
Okay.
They had brought in. I mean, they had a talk established. There was like 2 or 3 Alaskan tents back there. I don't know exactly what they were doing.
Okay.
I don't know the whole. That was I was talking to Lieutenant Colonel Aucklander about all that.
They were getting their CIVs.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't.
I'm just
so
kidding.
Aucklander seemed to be a good dude.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, this thing turned into a big. I know. Like I'm like, this thing went nuts, and it very well could have been meant for us because like at one point the little motorcycle carts came up, and it was actually Wiesner was up in the tower, and he green lazed them. So we had gotten intelligence that there was going to be VBID. So Sergeant Hill was like, hey, let's push the C-wire out. We have a road coming across here that we've been allowing people. There's an alternate road around the whole field, whatever. You know, it's an extra 500 meters to walk. They can deal with it. So we pushed the C-wire out. So, like, you could walk through. We'd still allow the villagers to walk through, but no vehicles. So this vehicle came up and kind of had, like, this, like, and it was weird. You know, it was just, like, a weird, so he green lazed it and stuff. And the guy was there for, like, another, like, 30 seconds. And he, like, goes to shoot a pen flare at him. He's like, what's going on? It's just, like, and the guy hightails out of there, you know? And it was like, all right, well, crisis averted, right? We were coming back in from a patrol in the town of Morgan, which was like right off of where our stuff was. There's a few weird little villages and stuff right there. And we're doing the AAR and stuff, and the sky lights up. Holy heck, what was that? And tracers start coming through the air. And the tower, like, because I have, I have the radio that's linked into the towers on me, you know, as well as one to the talk and one to the platoon. And I hear the tower like, holy shit. Oh my God, freaking shoot right at us. And it's actually these guys down in Gondigan. But they ended up initiating with the donkey cart or whatever this was, you know, the little motorcycle cart, blew a breach in the wall and just started sending in freaking, you know, human bombers, tossing grenades, firing. Yeah, they knew where all the bunkers were. Wow. So, like, afterwards, I'm talking to the kid, like, one of the kids that was there, and these guys thought they were getting rocketed, you know, because they had been at Kandahar the whole time. They thought rockets were coming in. They weren't infantry guys, and they were all diving for the bunkers. Well, these guys knew right where the bunkers were, and that's the first place they went. They flowed in. They went straight to the bunkers and just started, you know, turkey shoot. And oh man, it's escaping me now. I want to say Wade, but I can't remember the sergeant's name. Ooh, figure that one out. But he ended up dying in all this. There was Lieutenant Chris Yeske died in that. That was they actually said that they're not completely sure what happened, but they think that he went to tackle one of the suicide bombers, and they found him rolled up in one of the tents the next day when they were doing 100%. But we went to, during this, after this happened, it took us a good 10 minutes to get released. Like, we were like, let us respond to this. They are getting bucked up over there. And it was like, hold, until it was finally like, we're going. And freaking the platoon sergeant had like supplemented with a gun team and some other stuff. And like, we ran down the road and then around the corner into this thing, came up to this thing. And they had just moved out. And here we come to a smoking hole in the wall. And like, we started initiating medevacs in, there's this little freaking graveyard. It was the only flat spot out there. So here's like an Afghan graveyard with all these stones as like grave markers and stuff. And you're getting pelted with stones, and Black Hawks are coming in, and we're just loading people up on on the birds, and me and my platoon sergeant we're directing these things in along with the other guys and stuff. And then when that cleared out, we went in to supplement their security. And that was actually one of the guys. And, you know, I think in the book it was lieutenant, but he was actually had just gotten his captain. But it was Captain Scott Haran that was there. And I think he was with Charlie. He had just switched positions somewhere. And it was just like he wasn't even supposed to be there. And he had led the basically clear stuff out. They didn't have anybody in the towers. That's like the biggest thing that what happened there is none of the American counterparts were up in with the Afghans. And it had something to do with the base for that particular tower. The Afghan barracks were down there, and they wouldn't allow the Americans to come through the Afghan barracks at night.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, read between the lines on that
Yeah.
one. There was a lot of
Hanky-panky?
Bachabazi, Chaiwali.
Yeah.
Yeah, like so there was a bunch of that down there. That's in there too.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Where they say that this practice was, you know, this is their culture. That started in the 80s.
Yeah.
You know, with Mujahideen out in the hills. Like that's not a freaking long time practice. That's people bored in the mountains.
Yeah.
Doing messed up things.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, one of the things that really comes across in this book is really because it is like the losses that like the 82nd was taking.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that a little bit? Like, what was the tempo? Not necessarily just in your company, but just like, you know, battalion wide or however you guys, you know.
I mean, it was across the board. There was stuff happening all over. Bravo Company. We were taking some pretty heavy casualties out there, but I mean, it was. We had one of our guys moved out, and he was over at Brigade, coordinating this, and he's just watching it across the board. He's watching 2 Charlie, and we're hearing it across the river from us. Like, so we're getting blown up day after day, and we're just hearing gunfights, like day after day, and we're like, dude, just let me just switch AOs, man, or just let us go over there for a day, like let us roll through there. Let's take some frustrations out on these guys. It was just brutal. Like there's portions of it to where there's a bunch in there even to where guys just blocked out periods of time. I know for me, my time at Cop Ware, like there's kind of a blank missing. And I wanted, cause really after that bomb went off where Johnston was killed after Christmas, it was only a few days until I was loading up to go on mid-tour. And I didn't even think about this until later on. And somebody asked me when they were interviewing me, and they were like, "Did you ever like think about that and going back?" I'm like, honest to God, it never even crossed my mind.
Yeah.
Like now that you're telling me this, like I am realizing that my sheer stupidity, I guess, you know, as this at that time I was 28 years old, you know, going back into it. I did do a little bit of you know, I missed my flight. Out of Atlanta there, you know, so I got to stay over an extra because I was flying back from Connecticut. So it was Connecticut to Atlanta and then Atlanta to Kuwait. You know, so I did the whole tactical move of I'm not trying to like not show up, but oh man, I showed up too late for today's rip. Like I guess I got one more night in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Bummer.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was never any question in going back. It was like you know, the feeling the need to go back with the other guys there. But really, I guess we had just experienced that. So, I mean, I guess I wasn't really thinking. It had just started, really.
Yeah.
The kickoff in the Arghandab.
Yeah.
But,
But that had happened just before you went on your mid-tour. What was your mid-tour like, knowing like that having happened and knowing like your guys were probably in the shit? Were you able to like put it out of your mind? Were you thinking about it a lot?
I wasn't. I literally was just like, different place.
Yeah.
You know, completely separated. I went on a snowboarding trip with my brother. You know, they did a little family party thing, you know, and stuff. But like, it was like, yeah, one week I was at home and the next week I was snowboarding for the week, you know, and it was the mountains of Vermont and drinking sex and, you know, hooking up and all right.
Yeah.
Back out.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess not really, going back into it. Getting there and knowing I came back to the perfect situation. No, I just it was like just that man, realization right back into it. So I fly into Ware, and during the time somebody had lost like a pair of nods or something, a serialized sensitive item, and of course First Sergeant had the burr up his butt to toss the whole place, and I'm like, all my stuff is just strewn about on my cot in like my area back there. And we were living in GP mediums with freaking plywood floors that we just scrounged up so we actually had a floor. It was all just muddy anyway. We tracked everything in. Springtime out there it was bad. But my stuff's all over the place. And I'm OCD. And I like stuff and I had so much shit there. Especially with the RTO. Like I had like a whole nother shelf because I had other tough boxes that the platoon sergeant had. And I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, I hit the freaking roof. And Sam Hammer comes out and he's like, oh, First Sergeant they're looking for knots, so we had to cut your stuff, sorry. And I'm just like, dude, really? What's the matter, man? You got a freaking problem? And this guy, good dude, but always that roughneck, infantry through and through, honest to God. And I was like, do I pick this fight with Hammer? Or do I just, man, it's not worth it, man. This guy, lumberjack, previous lumberjack, he's a fighter. I'm like, dude, there's no sense in both of us freaking getting into this thing over this. This is stupid. But I was like, man, isn't this just fitting? Welcome to the Argandab, kicking the dick. Yeah, right. It's like, So, yeah. Right back at it.
You guys also had the counterintelligence issues out there. You're working with the Afghans. You don't know where their loyalties are.
Yeah. Seeing guys come up on cell phones as we're leaving, so you have to start, make it look like the patrol's going this way, right. And then as soon as you're out of sight, beeline out or make a hook. Yeah. Can you talk about? We talked a little bit about the counterintelligence absolutely.
issue.
Yeah. So there was literally we had brought in contractors to work on, and I think it was just base improvement stuff, but some of this stuff was, we had some of this with the Copware too, with the filling those HESCO barriers and stuff from earlier. So they brought these guys in, build up the towers, do the various things around the base that we, didn't want to do, didn't really have time to do, honestly. And the interpreter for these guys, there's always somebody there to make sure they're not doing anything dumb, messing with anything, sabotage. And there's somebody watching them, guard watching these guys, and he's kind of chummy with the interpreter, and they're talking and stuff. Well, later on down the road, when we were seeing these cell phones and stuff, we sort of were like, hey, we're going to create this SOP to where we're going to confiscate the cell phones. And we had a Celex machine with us at the time, and we ran it through that. And we got this video off the phone that is one of the kids that's guarding the rest of the workers. And he's putting out these leading questions, and he's really, he's just running this source, and this kid's not even realizing. And he's like, oh yeah, it's not anything crazy, but we can't see that great at night, really, with night vision. It's not how you think it is. It's grainy. You can't see as far. You can't see as well going through orchards and stuff, limited visibility. And this guy, you can see he's running this, and this kid just has no clue. He's led him down this path, this gradual path. And, sure enough, a bunch of the numbers and stuff, once we sent things in, popped hot. And, they showed up and rolled this guy up and never to be seen again kind of deal. Probably Gitmo somewhere or something, but, you just didn't know. Always watching.
Yeah.
Eyes on all the time. Even the villagers, you just see somebody out there, they're just squatting down watching you.
Yeah.
You know that they're watching you because they're just feeding information out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were most of the IEDs that you guys were dealing with, were they pressure triggered, or were you also dealing with the cell phone activated?
There was everything. They started giving us, we had, I think they're in some of those pictures with that Thor system, to where you had to run them in a sequence. There's a certain way you had to run it, and those counter frequencies that they would have for those. They did work when the guys used them, but it really, the trade-off, so people were starting to get headaches.
Right.
And I mean, we're literally leaving the wire once, and this kid is like, "Hey, Sarge, I don't feel so good." Like, and he's got blood trickling down his freaking nose, and we're like, "Dude, like, these things are bad juju." We redirected the first canal, and we're like, the squadron's like, "Sit down." The kid's like, "What?" Like, they're not putting two together. He's like, "Sit down in the water until the machine stops working." And the fans on these things, the cooling fans are like spitting water out and stuff, and it just finally dies out. And he's like, "Oh, bummer. Guess we had an equipment malfunction. We got to bring them back." And there they sat in the back of the talk for the rest of the time. But we were just like, yeah, we're not going out there with brain scramblers. Like,
So these systems that Will's talking about are these jammers that are supposed to intercept or interrupt like cell phone signals, radio different types of initiations. The thing they didn't tell people, though, when they were using these systems, that they're putting out a ton of like
radiation.
Like RF and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
And
you're already getting some for an RTO. Like, I mean, the same deal. You rotate those positions for that very reason. Like, you get, you're absorbing radiation in those like high powered radio frequencies. So here's these things you're strapping on essentially that are constant.
So the Army labs didn't do a whole lot of testing on these systems.
Should have done the full write up.
8 mice, I think it was. 8 mice.
It worked with the chips.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So, and that was the thing is that, probably a lot of times when you guys went out, like the bad guys knew you were going out.
It was more important to pay attention to the flags, to the different, like, to people that were out there, to like patterns of life. That was knowing your environment, knowing what's right, and knowing like what's normal there. That was the important thing.
Right.
It's not, all these gizmos and everything else. That was dumb.
And how did you guys like learn that? Did you have like big like debriefings where people say, "Hey, I saw this," or "I saw this," or was it just a matter of like picking it up as you went?
A lot of it was adaptation from the guys. I mean, there was literally guys were taking there was one of them took a crescent wrench at one point, and like how they usually have a loop on the end of a crescent wrench, as the adjustable wrenches, and he tied off some 550. Pull it in. All right, we're good up to that point. Walk up, pull it in. It was that bad. There was someone that they had sent out a kid's fishing rod, those little, so you put a little weight on there. Because it's a little bit further distance than the crescent wrench.
Yeah.
It was all adaptation, every single bit of it. And then at one point, I think it was the last like 2 weeks or something, we rocked the roads the whole time because anything that was in the roads had been pulled out, and we were like, all right. We're going to take it easy the last 2 weeks. And we were walking the roads, and they're like, "How are you walking the roads?" And it's like, because we know nothing's in them now. Yeah. They pulled it all out to freaking put it out through the whole landscape, I mean, it was still probably just a crapshoot, but, at one point they pulled out, and there's a picture, and our sergeant major had no idea until this reunion, and they told him, but there's this picture of him right before we had this one portion that they constantly cleared the lock. They do the lock patrol line of communication. So you just always had to have that open. And where he's standing in this picture, there was 6 set in our in our staggered road column, just ready to go. Just waiting for the right moment. And they found him, like, dug him up, and we're like, "Man, we've been walking this for like 2 months now, 3 months now. Like, what the heck?" They found one on the base, like, shit. On the established compound. I think it was on by the flight line, but yeah, they dug one up, and they're like, "Holy crap!" Like, there were just so many IEDs out there. Later on, there was a guy. It's 2012. They did a survey, and they found that it was the most probable that every 200 yards there was an IED. Every 200 square yards. That's nuts. It might have been feet. I want to say yards though. That's still, it's crazy.
What was for like the company in that area? Do you know what like the monthly average of like casualties was for you guys?
Literally, again, because we were apart, and I mentioned it in there, like when we got back to Kandahar, hey, where's so and so?
Yeah.
Oh man, you didn't hear? Like we were so compartmentalized where we didn't even.
Yeah.
We weren't catching up like who was out of the fight. You know, we're back at Walter Reed.
Yeah.
And really, I mean, at one point they filled the whole prosthetics wing. Oh no, the whole wing at Walter Reed was our guys from Two Fury. It was nuts.
Yeah. That was one of the things that, I mean, there's so many like individual stories and so many things.
We could tell stories all night, and it's still full.
That's one of the things is the book is just almost overwhelming in that way.
And it's only from the platoon level.
Yeah.
Like, and people are like, well, why didn't you write a company one? And I'm like,
yeah,
because there's more to the story, and I didn't want to make it an easy read for one. Like, you get any more than that for an infantry guy, they're going to be like, yeah, I'm not reading that.
Yeah.
You know? Like, why not? Well, I mean, that's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
other
You
thing.
could you could easily be writing the 5-volume set, right?
Yeah.
It's written at a high school level for that. I started thinking about it like, no, I want this to be able to be picked up by either someone that's in high school, like that wants to join, because this is your full spectrum. Like, I show the good times, and I show the crap. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, you got both in there.
Yeah.
And it's really like, hey, know what you're getting yourself into. I, for one, like, I knew for a fact that in the Argandab, like my time there and where I was right where I was supposed to be. Quite honestly, like even all those years ago, and like everyone were like, wow, that stuff happened to you. And I'm like, it happened for a reason, man. And like, and I was there for a reason.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, there's been thing after thing with this book that has just been, it's just affirmed it. It's been very, like, crazy. We're sitting here today off of you know what I mean? This is,
Yeah.
it's nuts.
I was gonna say that the book is very easy to read. It's a fast read.
Mm-hmm.
It's you know, it's very condensed.
Yeah.
Like it covers a lot.
I'd love to go back and do a literary version at some point, but like, it's right for what it is. It really is.
It is. It's not. You know, sometimes history books, or you know, can be like exhausting,
Dry, boring.
Yeah.
Like, you see that this is where this comes in different, to where you're getting a nonfiction account and DOD approved, which is normally something you only get at that general officer level, but it's not that boring, you know, shoot yourself in the foot, like I want to get out of this kind of thing. But it's, you know, I mean, it's because it's from us on the ground.
Yeah.
You know, I'm
Yeah.
sure down the road, you know, our CO at some point will probably come out with that historical version. Maybe it will be boring. He's a hell of a writer. I've seen some other stuff he's written though, and I'm like, man, when's yours coming out?
Yeah, yeah.
This is good.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see all the stories that come out of Afghanistan.
Yeah. There's already two. So Charlie, that was across the river that I was talking about taking firefights. This thing, I've been helping him out with some of it
Cool.
and stuff. But it's already inspired him to bring his story forward. There's talk of battalion stuff. There's the other platoons. And again, I've told them, I'm like, all right, man, like I now have an in and I know people. I want to help you bring this stuff out. And if we have something, like I'll help you bring it to the publisher. I don't care. Like I did these hurdles and I did them for a reason. I'm not stubborn son of a bitch that freaking stuck with it this whole time. So, I mean, that's one of the follow-ons is doing, as a military person, we're good at following frameworks. If you give us a blueprint of what to do and what path to follow, we're very good at that. And it's really like, I'm good at figuring stuff out. Man, you put me, like I was saying before, they put me in Hardy Hall. And I figured that building out and the whole problem out in 2 months. They're like, who are you, man? Like, we just set you out. And that was actually the first time I had someone come back and say, like, hey, have you ever thought about going over to the CAG side? And I'm like, no freaking way. Are you kidding me? And they're like, no, there's some stuff there. Like, and I got told later, that's actually, I had my packet in. And then, you know, my now wife had come to me and been like, hey, I'm pregnant. And I'm like, I kind of had to put it up and say, all right,
Yeah.
like, which side are you going to?
Yeah,
Yeah.
What are you going to, because there's only one. At that level, there's only one.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, military hasn't really worked out for you at this point.
Yeah.
You know, and just see what's up. Maybe you can do some like more good outside of there. So I mean, really, that's sort of been these last few years in getting out. You know, navigating business school in 2.5 years, and Towson, man, it really would have been 2 years. I'm really pissed that it wasn't 2 years. I had a throwaway semester. The calculus professor, they threw us this last minute standardized test, from higher. And I'm like, this isn't even written like the same way that she explained stuff. And I bombed it, so I contested it though. I'm like, no way. And I redid it, but she summered in India. So, the alternate test was all good and everything, and I passed it. But at that point, business school, all those courses were filled up, and they're like, well, I'm like, dude, I'm living on GI Bill money right now.
Right.
I have to I can't just say, all right, I'll take this semester off.
Right.
So I filled it up with a journalism class.
Total
Weird
waste
how
of
that
money.
worked out.
It kind of is.
Yeah,
Hey, don't
I know.
Don't get me. I've never taken a journalism class in my life.
I know you never taken it. I was just gonna dig at you though.
But the other one, digital graphics,
Yeah.
so the guy, I reached out afterwards, the front cover, and I'm like, hey, what do you think of this? And he told me hey, smooth this font to this and change these lines to this. And it really made it pop and stuff. And he, crazy enough, another weird thing, he does work for the National Museum of the Army down at Belvoir.
Yeah.
He does all of their documentation and their print stuff, and to have that resource to run into that. And then all of a sudden it's this, and I can reach out to that resource. And he's another veteran too, and be like, hey man, through this thing, there has been so many different guys that have they've reached out and they've helped out. And it's been so collaborative. It's been refreshing to see, because we do, we were talking about some of this before. We see these gatekeepers and we see these people out there. I literally had one with this, with the PR stuff. There's, I don't want to go too far into it because I don't want to identify
Spill the
who
tea?
it is. Yeah, exactly. Right. But this is what this guy does where I'm at. And I reach out and it's well, what's in it for me? Literally asked me that. And I'm like,
Damn.
dude, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Your mission said is to help other veterans, and it says it in all this stuff. And I'm literally talking to you on how a peer-to-peer support,
Yeah.
talking about curbing veteran suicide and offering these peer-to-peer support groups because nobody in our area is doing it. And just to talk about sharing our stories together, because it worked out in an instance with myself. And I'm like, if that's the case, sure, let's get some clinicians out here on board, or at least let's work towards something, anything. I don't see anything in a veteran community out here that's anything other than the occasional veterans breakfast or VFW thing. I don't go to the VFW bar stuff. That's not my scene.
Yeah.
And the breakfast club, okay, it's special for some of those guys, but normally you just see the World War II hats out there and stuff. Our generation doesn't do that end of things. We want to go to the gym together maybe, or it's just different.
Yeah.
And it doesn't translate. And going there saying hey, somebody who's fired up about doing that and stuff, and just to really, quite honestly, take a piss in my Cheerios right off the bat. And I'm like, dude,
It's brutal,
this
man.
is what,
Yeah.
and it is. It's terrible.
I met with a SF guy this week actually, who's thinking about going into journalism and wanting to write, and it's no, we should be encouraging all of these people.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Talk to these people. Think about doing. And I'm probably the last guy to give advice.
The
but,
jaded.
don't
do it, bro. It's Cal all over again.
I told him exactly that. I was like, it doesn't pay anything. Understand that,
That's for
but
sure. I've had people say, "Oh man, you just had a book you're paying." I'm like, dude, if you knew, man, starving artist.
People think you're Tom Clancy because you wrote a book. Yeah, it doesn't work quite like that. But no, we should absolutely encourage these guys to share their experiences and share them with the American public, especially. Because how can they know if we don't talk about it?
Yeah.
You're kicking them in the dick before they even get started. And it
Yeah.
just leaves
Yeah.
that thing of, good luck, man. I think that's part of this too, is maybe it just took the fact that I'm not somebody you want to freaking kick in the dick like that. I just get angry about it. I'm like, what am I going to do about it? Okay, fine. I'll figure it out. And I am. I'm speaking in front of a group that he's actually involved with coming up soon. And I'm like,
Oh, you're gonna spill some tea, huh? Throw some shade?
nah, I'm just going to mean mug him while I freaking. I won't be petty about it, but he'll know for sure. We'll definitely give him that evil eye.
You mentioned the veteran support stuff. How are the guys from First Platoon doing? How are the guys from Bravo Company doing?
So there's definitely, you go through a situation like that, you have bonds together. I mean, that really transcend a lot of stuff. There's been issues. I mean, the suicide rates, I think battalion is up to 30 people, for suicides at this point. Bravo Company, man, I know there was Sergeant Alan Thomas was one of them, and we had talked about that before, to where really, I mean, nobody knows the full thing. Mm-hmm. Nobody knows everything that happened during that incident. But really, it was like he went and cleared his neighbor's house, and shot and killed 2 people in the neighborhood, got into a gunfight, and then it ended up taking his own life. Most of the guys go to say that, nobody was there, so we don't know. But really, the way that I look at it is he probably realized what he had just done. I had seen, what breaks me up about it is I had actually seen Sergeant Thomas, and this part's I'm pretty sure this is in the book. And I had seen him when I was over in the Q course, and we ended up at the same gym. He was in Warrior Transition Unit, and, he noticed me, I noticed him, I was like, hey, what's going on, man? And I kind of popped away from my group, talked for him for a little bit. I hadn't seen him in a while. And yeah, it wasn't the same Thomas. He was hollow. It was just like an emptiness. He wasn't, Thomas was always the guy that would make, he would be the one everybody would be laughing about. He was a character. You can't talk about 1st Platoon, you can't talk about Bravo Company without talking about that guy. Just a good, solid dude. And for that to happen, as a lot of people go and reevaluate, and then other people, I mean, Sergeant Derek Hill, he was another one. And I was actually after that one, someone had said something at the funeral, and it was overheard by one of the wives, but they had said, I guess I'll see you at the next one. And they were like, yeah, that's heavy. Mm-hmm. That's freaking heavy. But I mean, they decided to do something about it. And I talk about that too, on that peer group side of things, is that was really how they kind of birthed Operation Resiliency through that. And it was, so our company was the pilot for that. And when you normally see reunions and stuff for like a company, an infantry company, 20 people, if you're lucky, this was like 120 freaking people showed up. It was insane. And I showed up on day 2. I actually basically got on a plane right after one of my midterms or something. It was like an exam to where I was like, I can't be there day 1, but I feel like I got to be down there. But it was really good to reconnect with a lot of those guys and stuff, and really in seeing on how this group was run, in that getting guys to open up with one another and like, hey, it's okay to talk about this stuff, and it's okay to show these emotions, and it's okay to cry on one another's shoulders. We were all there together, man. Freaking, it's not a big deal. But then have those clinicians there on standby in case, it goes further, or in case it's like, hey, I am willing to talk. And there's one in particular that I'm thinking of that, like, he literally told us later on, like, I had been thinking about ending it when I got the invite to this thing. And I was like, well, hey, what's one last time seeing the guys before? It'll be nice to see the guys before I go. And through this, he kind of realized, like, hey, man, like, I want to be part of that change. And he works in the system now, in that, like, trying to talk people off that ledge and stuff. Yeah. So I mean, really, that huge success story there, but there needs to be, there needs to be more. Right. Like, and this stuff needs to be across the board. I know we just had Veterans Day this last thing, and I know Sebastian Younger's doing stuff with Vets Town Hall, giving vets a voice and stuff. But really, I think that end is really good too. I'm wondering, like, on why we don't have more of those too. It seems to be Northeast region. I'm literally, I got his email through one of the guys that, and that's another thing too, to speak to the testament of the guys and stuff. There was one of the 2 Fury guys who was like, hey, I'm going to this younger event. And we had been talking. I'm like, look, man, if I get you a book, would you approach him about it? And he's like, you know what? If I can, I will. Mm-hmm. And he didn't know I'd already been talking to the guys at the museum about doing an event up there. So I hit them up and I was like, hey, man, like, look. And it was more for him on that end. Because I'm like, if he doesn't bring the book, I get it. That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
But I was like, can you get him a side thing? And they did. And he, he got to meet with him and everything. But I get this picture, that night of him holding the book with Sebastian Younger there wearing a Two Fury shirt. And I'm like, dude, like that support. And for those guys to be doing this, like that's why this is where it is and why group efforts and collaboration with veterans, it's a powerful thing.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
We need to be doing more of this stuff out there.
Yeah. We talked about a little bit afterwards about like the frustration of the war and whatnot, and your last chapter, the after effects, and talking about the trauma, talking about the frustration, talking about all that. Can you sort of like sum up, sort of for you at least personally, like what the after effects of all of it is, your time there, the men you served with, the results of the war, things like that.
I think a lot of this stuff, we have so much potential. And I think that so many guys, they look at it in reverse. They look at it as we're broken. And it's not, man. Like, you may have been broken down, but really you're forged. You're forged in that. You've been through so much more stuff than the average person. You've seen what leadership under high stress environments looks like. And quite honestly, like, we're at a time in America right now to where, like, we need leadership. Mm. We need these good leaders. Like, we need to have other vets out there standing up and like doing stuff, showing their communities. It doesn't even have to be a veteran community. Like, go out there. Like, there was this last summer. There was nobody, for God's sake, teaching kids soccer. Like, no parent would step up to do it. And I was like, fine, okay, let's go. Let's do it. Like, and these kids gravitate towards that. Mm-hmm. And they see that end of things. And they see, like, that coach end to where you bark this stuff out and they put in this hard work, but then you also like take a knee next to them and be like, hey, look, I know you're hurting right now. Or like, are you okay? To have that other soft side of it too. You're checking up on them and you're making sure that, essentially your little troops are taken care of, right. But all of these military skills are translatable down. And I think a lot of guys either lose that end, when they burn their uniforms, when they get out and whatnot, and stuff, or they just don't repurpose it, into the civilian side of things. For me, a lot of it has been using it to drive stuff forward. I do know that I've seen some like correlations to where I've heard with you, hey, I was, my marriage was spiraling and I was at Columbia and this and that. Well, yeah, I took my graduate level stuff at Columbia too, but I was pushing myself to like, hey, if the possibility is there for me to finish business school in this amount of time, and a pretty good one too, like, let's try Ivy League. Okay, wow, hey, I got some Ivy League stuff under my belt. Mm-hmm. Like, what's really possible? And just keep pushing yourself. Mm-hmm. But on the flip side too, like, I know that sometimes I'll push myself over that edge of exhaustion, or to where I'm taking out things on my kids. And stuff to where
running
it's like
I'm back of Hiluxes.
Yeah, right. Well, no, it's just like that hyper vigilance thing, but then also that like I want it done and I want it done now and I want it right, and it's like they're just kids, man. Yeah. Like, freaking, you need to back off.
Yeah.
You're not your freaking, not your team of little infantry bubas.
Yeah.
Like, they're kids.
Yeah.
Like, and they want to be kids, and like give them that time to grow up and like listen to them. And I've learned so much through watching them too, just like that wonder in their eyes and not giving the tablets over to them, and like keeping them, like, they're 5 and 7, so I mean they're small, but when you're out and you see a parent not want to spend the time, and what is that, man?
Yeah.
Yeah. I kick myself sometimes. Like, sometimes it is necessary, like, hey kid, like, all right,
yeah,
you got to do something, and you're and I just can't deal with this right now.
Yeah.
But afterwards, I kind of look at him like, damn it, man, you did it again. All right. So having that mindfulness on there.
But being self-aware, like how we act sometimes, it's like just reflex, but having the awareness to know. And I mean, when you call your 5-year-old the new guy, hey new guy, like
Knife hand, yeah. Hey, Dick.
give him the knife hand.
Chicken fucker.
Dad. Oh crap.
But yeah, I think that's very challenging in all aspects of our relationships. That you have these relationships you're used to in a combat environment. You have combat where like you say, it's like one foot on the gas, one foot on the brake, until it's time. You never hit the gas. The gas is always on. It's just you take the brake off.
Yep, you're left foot
right?
braking.
Yeah, and then to try to be present for relationships that don't have anything to do with any of that, because we don't either anymore.
Yeah.
Well,
sometimes it is that snapping, like my wife says it, and it actually, matter of fact, it came back and it didn't really fully hit me until I heard the Tom Satterley interview, and he said something about his wife saying, it's not what you're saying, it's how you're freaking saying it. I'm like, what do you mean? But then when I heard it from him, I was like, ooh. And I kind of got, like, it clicked, and I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like I am freaking just barking out stuff sometimes, like, or going that route, and it sets it off on, that defensive mode.
Yeah.
So that's something we got to be aware of, I mean, I'm sure civilians, my wife says it all the time. She's a nurse.
Yeah.
And she's like, God, these veterans come in. It's like, ugh, such a pain to deal with.
Yeah. No, I've been in the VA enough, like for surgery and stuff, like staying over.
Yeah.
I like hearing other veterans in the hallway. Like I know how high maintenance veterans can be. Veterans can be
Understatement.
very, very high maintenance.
How's been your care at the VA? Like, honestly, like I'm
Care
curious.
is great. Here in New York, the doctors are phenomenal.
Yeah.
Because they, a lot of them, rotate through other, they're like in other hospitals.
Oh,
and
yeah.
they rotate
Like
through.
Baltimore, they have Hopkins and University of Maryland right there doing all the teaching school
the
stuff.
care is great here. It's getting the care that you're generally, like if you need a specialist, you first have to get a referral from your primary care, which is a month. It takes a month to get primary care. Then they give you a referral, and that takes a month generally. So hopefully, like it's nothing, that needs to be, like when I had to have my arm, rebuilt. Basically, they had to re-break it because they couldn't get me into surgery because it wasn't an emergency. They couldn't get me into surgery in time. But when they did, though, the doctors who did it did a phenomenal job.
Yeah. The problem is like those wait lists. There are other veterans who are like in such bad shape that you tell them come back in 8 months, and like they're dying in that interim. Before they get in there.
Yeah, and when I had my assault, when that trauma, because it was during COVID, like they were trying to give me virtual appointments a month away, and
COVID
I was
nuts.
It was it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare.
Yeah.
But I think the VA has a strategy of if you have something that's really serious, they'd rather you just die. It's like one less thing. So so that's why the wait list or the month long is sort of like a gatekeeper thing. It's like, well, if they can make it a month, we'll see them.
Problems take care of themselves.
Problems solve themselves.
Right.
Exactly.
No, I know I've been a lot of the same thing. Like the workers, like it's like the people on the line and stuff, like second to none. I've never had better like actual care there. But then when you're on I'm on a wait list right now where it's like I waited 6 months and then they're like, hey, see you in 2 weeks for surgery. And I'm like, dude, I'm not even around in 2 weeks and nobody called to schedule. Can we schedule something?
Yeah.
All right, I'm canceling your appointment and somebody will reach out.
Yeah. And then it's like, oh, we have an opening 6 months.
Anyone's out there.
Yeah. And we have an opening 6 months from now.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just like, dude.
Yeah.
So,
It's great.
William, what's the next book? What's the next project?
Honestly, the next project, I'm pretty sure, like, knowing the way that I guess things go for me, it's probably just in reverse. Like it's the book that I wrote 5 years ago having to do with my transition experience and like all these frameworks and stuff. I put in stuff like quite honestly, I think that while transitioning out of the military, that's really where this disconnect first happens, and that's where we fail the guys almost immediately.
Yeah.
The TAPS program, it's essentially a freaking writing resume plan. Like that's really it.
I've been told it's better today.
That's what they tell me.
The one I went through was a joke.
Yeah.
But that was also 12, 13 years ago now.
Okay, so mine was in my active duty one was 15. 18, I didn't even anything with the reserves at that point. Like I got word 6 months after I was in the reserves that all my stuff came back from the VA and they're like, "Oh, you should have been like medically retired." And I'm like, "Okay, so can we do that?" And they're like, "Well, and the reserves just held on to me for the rest of my contract, so I did 2.5 years unpaid with the reserves. They just wouldn't release me." And I'm like, "You gotta be kidding me, man. I'm showing up to drill and they just use me for tactical stuff." I'm like, dude.
And they didn't pay you?
Double dipping.
Oh.
So you can't. So it's just better off not to take anything from them. Like you're just like,
oh, okay.
yeah, it was a joke. It was like, I couldn't believe. I'm sure somewhere down the line, like someone will catch wind of it and it'll get rectified.
I doubt. I mean,
probably.
maybe.
Yeah, who knows? But yeah, so I mean, really, like, I'm probably gonna start hitting on that one. Quite honestly.
Where can people find you? I mean, obviously, pick up the book, buy the book, read the book. It's a phenomenal book.
Review the book. No.
Review the book. Leave a review for the book. Yeah.
But yeah, no.
But where? This is a mic. Where else can people find you if they want to? Are you on social media? If people want to follow you?
So I mean, you can do your standard retailers and stuff, but there's also damnthevalleybook.com, and that has all of the basically link tree of, you've got your Instagram, your Facebook, your YouTube, I think I just picked up a Reddit too. But I just constantly put stuff out, like daily content. It's all scheduled on there, and then I just put shove extra things in there that people don't want to hear while I'm pushing the book thing. But yeah, I mean, there's daily pictures from Afghanistan out there. But really, like that's been the whole thing, like building in that whole package. They can go down to the Airborne and Special Operations Museum to where we had the book launch and see the damn flag from the cover. It's on display in the museum down there. They can see Lee's backpack with the ball bearing hole through it and the PMAG that's split open. Like, I think that's what's really made this special is I've gone through this process and this extra stuff. But yeah, I mean, go down to the museum, check this stuff out. Go online to damnthevalleybook.com. I have signed copies on there. If you bring me a signed copy, or an unsigned copy, I'll sign it. I don't care. I'll go by stores and sign stuff up if it'll help people, buy it. But I just want to get the story out there.
Yeah.
But if they get them from the author signed ones on the website, I ship them out. But for every 2 that I sell, I get 1 out to the guys that are there. So I'm just basically I'm just using crowdsourcing on it. I didn't want to go, hey, donate so I can buy 150 books. I kind of feel I'm that person who's like, I'm not going to take that handout. Like, I want to put something in. So if it takes my signature on it to be able to get them out there and get them to the guys, then okay, so be it. If Netflix wants, cool. Make the deal, and then I'll buy the guys the books. But right now,
Netflix, get on it.
Yeah, Amazon. What's the other ones? No.
Yeah, Prime.
All those studios.
No, because I can see this book and books like this. If you're talking about Two Fury or whatever, whenever
there's so many good stories out there, man.
That they can become sort of the next like Band of Brothers type shows.
Yeah,
and they should be.
I mean, these extreme instances of like life, death, like all this, it has the full spectrum. There's so much in there.
Yeah,
it really.
Look,
is.
if somebody can produce Lone Survivor, they can produce this.
if I can write this,
yeah,
you get that Dan Bilzerian guy behind it.
Oh God, didn't he? Yeah.
Reach out to your Hollywood contacts and make this happen, man.
I mean, you could try.
There's some people out there that are tracking. Honestly,
cool.
I've had some things pop on my LinkedIn like, hey, you're getting eyes from here, and I'm like, we'll see. Time will tell.
So next week we'll be back with Zach Dorfman. coming on the show a second time. He produced a whole journalistic podcast about spies infiltrating Silicon Valley. So we're excited to have him back on the show. In the meantime, hope people will go and pick up the book, give it a review, let other people know about it. And thanks for coming to the studio, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys. Seriously, it's been awesome.
Yeah.
It's been great.
Thanks, Phil.
All right, we'll see